Alright, hello and welcome back to the Divine Deception. The political thriller shall continue now. Very good indeed. I was worried I'd set this up wrong. Oh. Oh. Oh, it didn't save. Oh dear. That's embarrassing. That's a little embarrassing. Well, the good news is I can speed through the stuff I've already seen pretty easily. Alright, not a problem. I can speed through easy. There are currently only 9 brothers present, and Killer disguised as a butler. Then let's or I remember that one. Reasonably confident this one. Alright. Should be pretty easy. Really shows how much text there is. Of course, I should be wary of the fact that our narrator Ez here is so confident. Because remember, they did mention that, oh, this is the same one as before. I'll just skip it for now. I'll come back to it later. But remember, oh yeah, we went through all this last time. Should be pretty quick. This time I'll actually remember to save, don't worry. I have to say, this scene where they almost discovered us because Milo got caught after we tried to let him go actually had a lot of intensity to it. Definitely feeling pretty good. I mean, could you sympathize with killing them? No. Right. Alright, bronze locks here. Logic, fighting, deduction. Oh, I can change it at will. Alright, now we've already completed the detective up to the bronze lock. Thane's story up to the bronze lock. Next. Gambler, a fighter. Go with the laptop then. Eye in the sky. Damn, reposts. Seen that one like a dozen times. Where are the mods? Whatever. Next page. Come on. That took like 7 seconds. Why were Kamappa's server so painfully slow? They're one of the biggest social media platforms. Oh dang, I know that frustration. The fact their site was still seemingly duct taped together was absolutely pathetic. Yes, the servers are held together with duct tape, glue, and a whole lot of prayer. Whatever. Some link to an old band nobody cares about, some girl recovered from cancer, boo-hoo, whatever. I think someone recovering from cancer would not be a boo-hoo situation. Neat pictures someone probably found off Google. Well, hey, sometimes some funny meme pictures get shown up here and there. Dog. Well, thank goodness this user shared a picture of their dog. I really appreciate getting to see this very specific dog. It's not like there are 100 dog pics posted to this site every single day. Yeah, welcome to social media, where things get a bit samey after you've been there a while. It astounds me that the stuff people thought was worth posting about. Wasn't there a rule about low effort? Whatever. Oh, what's this? Dang, somebody did a stop motion routine with their clothes. Unoriginal, but still impressive, if nothing else, for the sheer amount of time that must have poured into setting all this up. Honestly, it seemed a little pathetic. But this much time to waste on things like that. Well, I see this person is totally in the gamer TM mindset. Actually, that's not fair. This is pretty much any basement-dwelling nerd mindset. Okay, so maybe it didn't look like I was exactly doing something great importance either. Yeah, see what I mean? At least whatever character we're playing as in this story has some self-awareness. Calling the kettle black and all. Look, I worked a lot, okay? Thankless work, and more importantly, it was good to stay informed of current trends. It's all part of my process. I'd make a comment about it being a bit of a fool's errand to try and keep up with the trends, but that's kind of just the way I handle things personally. There's a reason I joke about the fact that I've never been up to date with trends, even when I was, well, a teenager, when people usually keep up with them most. So yeah, maybe the untrained eye shitting around on Kampa didn't exactly look like a productive use of time, but I knew what I was doing. Anyways, just for a bit of time each day, it's not by spending hours on it or anything. Ha ha ha, unless... Alright, let's see. Someone said something dumb on Pyrim, no surprise there. This news article. Olimpo acquires Bragi Doshio, a chain of record stores. The chain mostly operated within Panthea. It's just another step to the path of Olimpo creating a total monopoly of commerce in Panthea. And is this actually a good business strategy? See what our experts have to say on the matter. Dang, another one? I want to learn more. I clicked on the link and got taken to some online news site. I tried scrolling down the article and was instantly blocked by a pop-up. Please disable your ad blocker. Oh damn it, fine. I turned it off, refreshed, and instantly the entire screen was covered in garbage. And people wonder why ad blocker is so common. This is precisely the reason why. You turn it off for exactly 1 moment, and boom, 50 billion ads in your face. Okay, not worth it. I could guess the answers were yes and yes. Clicked off and look at the comments on Panthea. TLDR, Deisma says some shit about how music is close to his heart, whatever that means. Business goons and somehow both say that we're not in danger of an Olympio monopoly, and them creating a monopoly is a genius business strategy. 0 out of 10 articles. Right, sucks, would not recommend. Favorite part of this whole article is the specific quote. Art Deisma, current CEO of Olimpo, has this to say about the acquisition. It was motivated by my deep love of music. For me, music is always a special piece of my art. I have a lot of fond memories about music and like to put on whatever I'm... Put it on whenever I'm feeling it. Lagzosh. Proposal. I don't know if these are supposed to be people we already know, but then again, so far the storylines we've been looking at have been disconnected yet connected. That doesn't make any sense. They've each been self-contained stories, and yet they all connect to the city of Panthea as well as its government in some fashion. Like, no shit, he likes music. Everybody likes music. The fact they thought this was worth keeping in the interview, sheesh. Response to comment, ah yes, I too like your muzak. It's pleasing to my human ears. Also in response to the comment, far more dislikes. Not even the quote, bro. How hard is it to just copy C, copy V? Another comment captured the vibe quite succinctly. Eat the rich. Dang, I liked Bragi Docio. No lucks given. That's actually a very clever username. I might have to keep that in my back pocket. Last time I go there. Honestly, Daruk. Honestly, we should have seen this coming. Remember, Bragi Dosio CEO's Pyram comments about Governor Ija, about how she didn't have the right temperament to govern. Response to that. Oof, did he actually say that? Walk, walk, walk. Yeah, but he deleted the post hours later and never apologized, so not as many people know about it. Also, I'm surprised it took this long for the shoe to drop if that's the case. I was tired of the typical I'm up a hive mind at work, so I decided to poke the nest a bit. Olaf. Why are so many people mad about this? My local op sucked. At least with this, they might get the funding to do their job right. We'll see if anyone took the bait later. As I exit back to the main page, a song I heard for the 100th time began to play. Okay, I was officially sick of my own playlist. This is what I got for not updating it frequently enough. I've been burned out on my own songs. What's to listen to then? Got some good things about this up and coming artist known as Tale. Well, you could always put on a podcast, I guess, if you aren't in the mood for music. I decided to put shuffle of her biggest hits. Back to scrolling on Kamapa. Post, repost, ooh, a sketch. I opened the video and found a pretty unfunny joke about celebrity gossip I hadn't been keeping up with. Just great. Wait, wasn't our protagonist here just saying that they need to keep up with the latest trends? Open up the comments to try and find anyone who agreed with me. Also, you could tell me that was actually Colin Myers and I'd have believed you. Lomo, how does this guy not have more followers? Is this guy still making videos? Yeah, it's a dead end. Overrated. Also, as far as I know, were those rumors proven untrue? Pretty messed up if you ask me a joke about false allegations, just saying. Back to the main page, ooh, a nice sketch of a dog and cat. It was done this really cool pointless style. Pointillist style? I think I was the right art term, but to be honest, my knowledge of that is sketchy. Oh, I get it. I see what you did there. I gave the post a like, went to comments, leave on some praise. What a great and original picture. Seriously, couldn't get past the front page. A link to what I'm talking about. Oh, damn it, another art theft. What these people get out of this? I turned my like to a dislike and went back to the main page. Damn, what was that screech? Alright. Tale, you're officially not for me. Back to my playlist. It might be rude, but at least it wasn't terrible. Had I gotten any responses to my comments on the Olympio, that felt sufficiently inflammatory and the post was recently enough. Open my inbox, another tab. Sure enough, looks like I had some responses. I clicked the link that took me to comment. As expected, it was already in the negatives on the like ratio. Now, what were people saying? Bootlick? That was the most liked response. I quickly drafted up a response to that. Another ST response from... Yeah. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty inflammatory and pretty good at drawing attention. I'll admit the temptation just to cause bait is there at times because it's very easy to rile people up in the general sense, but I try my best to resist. What other replies did I get? I'm surprised you had that experience with Braggadocio. Honestly, part of the reason I felt so disheartened by this news is because I've loved Braggadocio. I've been there since I was a kid, and I have some really fun memories. Back in 3rd grade, I was going through some... This story did not deserve a paragraph, and I wasn't going to read it. What else? Well, I mean, you were the one wanted people to respond, and that person responded. What more do you want? Looks like the Olympio Defense Squad is out in full course. Never got why people like this exist. Like, it seems so dumb. They shouldn't even know how to use this site. Ah, yes, the usual response. Not defending shit, I'm asking a question. The fact you couldn't explain proves you don't know what the hell you're talking about either. Any other responses? Not like Olympio acquiring companies on the face of things is bad. However, the problem is when a simple company gets this big, they start acting shitty. Some things power is equal to how messed up it'll become. Not a fan of Olympio getting more powerful. It's already a complete shit show. Imagine what's gonna happen next. Finally, an actually intelligent response. Complete shit show. Blainop is big enough to be acquiring everything. And the equivalency is not a real argument because it's not based on anything. And finally, Bomb Pilot's responses. Thank you. So sick of the Kamapa hive mind. These morons get mad at everything, can't handle diverse thought. Alright, that was probably enough of that. That's another thing. If you put something blatantly inflammatory or by the rules of the internet, you're going to run into people who genuinely believe and agree with what you're saying, even though that makes you want to wash your hands. So, that's another thing that keeps me from doing it. Scrolling, ooh, a Gambler's Fallacy sequel. I love the first film of that. Had a bunch of inaccuracies, what can you do? Another article on the recent double homicide. Yawn. Next page. Somebody said something stupid on Pyram, somebody made an insightful retort. Cool, very funny. Another article headline, Governor Ija passes revolutionary prison reform bill. First of its kind, seeks to massively reform many of the issues facing the prison system. That sounds pretty cool. Good for Ija, I guess. Clicked on link the article just to skim through it. Luckily, this one was published by the Oracle, who didn't do this stupid pop-up thing. The article is way too long to actually read, so let's just check out the main points. Improved conditions, parole system will work, eliminating biases. Critics apparently claim it doesn't go far enough, or that it's too little too late. Surprise, surprise there. Yeah, it's hard to argue with something like that. Some people feel it's too little too... Yeah, I can understand for wanting a change but doesn't feel it does enough, or that it might be too late to make a big enough impact, but at the same time, like, well, what do you want to do? Just continue status quo? That seems counterproductive. An eternal stasis. Alright, seemed like a pretty cool thing. Rare to get positive stories in politics. Nice to see when that happens. This is all people, I'm sure. What do the comments think of this one before? This wasn't I was actually interested to see, since the opinions on Aija seemed somewhat split as of late. Oh, so her campaign may not be as guaranteed as we expect. Interesting. Oddly enough, on a local scale, she was less liked than she was on a national one. That tended to be the exact opposite of what normally happened. That said, Come Up had this weird feature where it tried to prioritize local users and stories in your feed, so I was a lot more likely to get news and images and whatnot related to Panthea, and I was a lot more likely to see comments by Panthean users. According to the creator, it was something to try and help foster communities or create connections. It's a gimmick as far as I'm concerned. I mean, on the news side, it was useful to be naturally fed more topical articles instead of just getting national or international news or defaulting to a specific Pantheon feed. Anyway, here's what people's heads were at. This is actually really encouraging to hear. I have an uncle who's currently imprisoned, and I hear a lot of horror stories from him. I know we have a tendency to dehumanize criminals, but most are there for non-violent crimes, and fundamentally, they're all humans too. Good steps forward in the right direction. Yeah, I remember the actual violent crimes and stuff percentage is actually quite low compared to other kinds of crime. Another comment had a bit more of a bleak take. Wow, a humanist law coming right around election season, right on schedule. Aija's a hack, and anyone falling for her, it is a... Poor lambs have such a poor reputation these days. But yeah. Well, I can get where this... First of all, I 100% get where this person is coming from. Convenient... 100% accepted laws coming into place near election time is certainly more than a little convenient, so I understand their hesitation. But at the same time... and of course, I don't blame them for not liking any particular politician, that's not something. But I will say, when people start using terminology like that, I will say that's usually one of those red flags for me to be very careful. Again, not to say that they're wrong or that they aren't capable of making good points, just that I want to be careful. Has anybody actually bothered reading through the changes? Like, don't get me wrong, they're definitely a step in the right direction. Fuchsia Demon. They don't really get to the heart of the issue. Whoever wrote this up is either a bit daft or doesn't really gaff. Oh, give an F. It's weird how I just very clearly change her tune. And if you're wondering why I'm a bit lighter on the language early on than I am later on, it's because first 10 or 20 minutes of a stream, YouTube doesn't really like too much heavy cursing and the like, and so I try to be a bit lighter. I may not be a person who curses all that often, but that doesn't mean I'm against reading it out. After all, I'm supposed to be playing the character. But these are all going to be on YouTube eventually, so I need to be prepared accordingly. Anyone else remember last time we heard about her talking about prison stuff? Because I remember. Link for anyone interested. Bloop. I wonder what this guy's talking about. Intrigued, I clicked the link. Let's take another article. Panthea's prisons are appalling. Aija's silence is damning. Okay, strong title. Let's see if they could back that talk up. Yeah, it's, while some articles can have really big titles like that, you need to be sure that the dialogue behind it can actually back it up, because sometimes they'll go back on it and say, oh, well, this is only alleged or speculation, and that completely goes against the title. But I suppose clickbait has always been essential, even before the concept of, the internet and all. I quickly skimmed through some key seeming sentences in the article. Panthea has a fairly large prison population, specifically one of the highest prisoner-to-citizen ratios in the country. Much of this is likely due to the city's long and inextricably linked history with organized crime. For decades, Panthea has seemingly been a breeding place for violent gangs. There are several reasons why the city could be a hotbox for this sort of activity. One, its location as a portside city made it a prime location for illegal smuggling for Seaside. It's also an incredibly urban area with high income inequality gap. Whatever the reason for these gangs, fact of the matter is they've led Pantheon prisons into being fairly cramped. However, not until a recent undercover operation was it revealed just how miserable these living conditions have become. It appears, in a bid to cut costs, several things seems like basic rights have been restricted and otherwise compromised. Then it goes to boring details. Bad conditions, just as bad, yeah. Okay, picking up where I just gave her a quote, obviously looking at the situation independently. However, from the evidence been presented, I believe it's quite a stretch to claim that human rights have been infringed. True, prisoners may not get the same treatment as customers of a fancy hotel, but I give people every assurance that Panthea looks out for every citizen, regardless of circumstances. I'm more than certain Warden Pei has been doing her best to run a clean operation. She continues to waffle for a bit, and eventually the author cuts the point. It's difficult to take Aija at her word, however. After all, it was she herself who helped get Miss Cami Pei into the position of prison warden. Aija's denial, refusal to take action in this situation comes more across as a carefully calculated political move to limit damage than a sincere one. Looking at her past, this isn't the first example of this type of behavior from Miss Aija, which raises a very fundamental, frightening question. Can we believe in our current administration? Damn, after finishing the article, I was left just a bit stunned. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a well-written article, from what I've read anyways. Had a lot of, facts, lots of citations, and the like. Raised interesting points, made those points well. Took a combative yet respectful stance. By all means, it was an example of some stellar journalism. However, that's sort of what made me confused. You could take the article how you wanted, but very clearly this was a direct attack on Governor Aija. At least partly, at any rate. And yet, looking at the side I was reading, it was from the Oracle. The Oracle was a lot of things, but one thing I thought it was fairly consistent on was its support of Governor Aija. I mean, yeah, this article was from some time ago, but still, I wasn't aware the article had changed so much in such a relatively short period of time. It was my impression they'd been staying the course for years at the very least. Who wrote this thing anyway? Scrolled up the top of my page and found the answer. Oh, well that explains some things. The article was written by J.C. Nezaya. I already knew her quite well. As opposed to the other staff, she'd written a number of fairly edgy and controversial pieces, mainly aimed at the establishment. I decided I felt like going down a bit of a rabbit hole. Not that I expected much to come of it, but who knows? Just going down internet searches from time to time could be, at the very least, cathartic. In rare cases, useful. I clicked the Oracle's main page, there I found a link to the page of the site's staff. There's a list of names, faces, short bios, a little shorter list than I would have expected. The Oracle is a decently big news site, especially in Panthea itself. I guess they had a lot of hard workers. At the top of the list was one familiar face, Kane Shea, editor-in-chief. Kane Shea is the founder of the Oracle. He made his mission ever since he was young to bring the truth to people. Ever since he was young, he was fascinated by politics and current events. That interest culminated into the creation of the Oracle, a small news site dedicated to looking at all stories, no matter how big or small. Kane Shea currently lives at the heart of urban Panthea, working hard to bring the freshest of scoops. Shea doesn't have any living family and is not in a relationship. He says that his true love is journalism. No family, huh? That reminded me of something. Oh right, Kane's parental past. I definitely heard something about that on Come Up at some point. Still couldn't remember specifics though. I looked up Kane Shea's parents in a separate tab. A number of articles popped up. Let's see, give me the goods. I clicked on a random one. Recent tragedy in Panthea. Daniel Shea murdered Sari in a fit of passion. Earlier reports claim Daniel was also intended to murder his son, but was unable to locate him. Seriously? Holy shit, that's awful. Daniel was killed in a firefight with the police during his arrest. Yeah, that's enough about that. It seemed messy. Poor Kane, yada yada. That probably scarred him in some way bad. My gut told me that incident was in some way connected to why Kane ultimately ended up being so infatuated with Governor Aija, but no idea how. I got sidetracked. I went back to the staff list. I looked around for the name JC, and I wasn't able to find it, so at some point she was removed from the staff list. I suppose that made some amount of sense, but that wasn't particularly helpful to me. I opened a new tab, and opened a website that could travel back, digitally speaking. Let's see how far back I have to go to find her on the staff list. Longer than a month, 3 months, 8 months before I saw a noble change. There she was. J.C. Nezaya, investigative journalist. I read over her bio, but it seemed like typical filler fluff. Why had she even worked for the Oracle in the first place? She seemed pretty opposed to a lot of what they believed. Felt like a match of oil and water to me. But hey, people had reasons for what they did. The Oracle probably helped the public perception to have at least one author who has an opposing belief from the rest of the staff. If you want to be generous, you could even say they wanted to remove their bias by hiring her. And for JC's part, there was also some good reasons. For one, it was a paying gig, which doesn't hurt. And if she believed in what she wrote, which she definitely did, the Oracle had a decent readership. Writing for them got her work in a lot of eyes. I guess the arrangement did make sense now that I was thinking more about it. I decided to look her up online. As expected, I was mostly getting articles written by her. I only found a single about her actual disappearance. I remember the article getting to the front of Kamappa, so I expect the story to be reasonably known. At least there'd be some stuff talking about it. I mean, JC was at least somewhat in the public eye. You'd have to think people cared at least somewhat what happened to her. Well, might as well reread the one article anyways. It's been a while since I saw it. Skimming through, not a lot of details. Unclear what happened to her. Co-workers reported her missing. There's signs she fled from her apartment. Please consider ongoing investigation. At present, no body has been found. Had to imagine that last aspect hasn't changed yet. No matter what, if a journalist turns up dead, somebody would say something. As it stands, maybe this hasn't gotten much media attention because it looks like she simply left town. That's what some of the evidence seemed to imply, based on the article anyway. But if a body was ever found, it'd turn to a murder case. So that's probably this was all that was ever found about JC Nezaya's disappearance. I still felt weird though, even without a body, for somebody to just disappear. No, not just somebody. There are a lot of somebodies who disappear in Panthea, but a journalist, one with multiple controversial takes, there had to be some people who wanted to know more about that. Why hadn't the Oracle published about this, or a statement? Had they gotten rid of her? Looking around, I couldn't find... No, or had they? Looking around, I couldn't find one. I changed tabs back to my comment in the Aleppo. Odds were great, I got at least one more response to my reply. Sure enough, the most level-headed I'd run into gave me another reply. My equivalency may not be literally fact, but it is functionally fact. Every single example in history supports that rule, and just because Olimpo as a company is doing well doesn't mean that it's not messed up. Let me tell you, Olimpo is going down a proper shady path right now. There's a rampant abuse of power, a toxic company structure. Employees are the subject to abuse all the time, so I do think my point stands. Abuse of power. Now this I felt like an interesting line to pursue. Let's see if we couldn't push for more information. Given the temperament, likely position, just asking for straight up more would be a fool's errand. However, give a push. Employee abuse, lol. How many times are we gonna hear that with no proof? Everyone needs a job. Just because you pay shit in your hours or shit doesn't mean you're being abused. Boss, let me guess, you were fired? That should probably do it. I tabbed back to my other search. I didn't believe there was any other credible coverage of the JC situation. I decided to scrounge around a bit more. After going down the search results a bit, I did notice something interesting. A link from a blog site entitled Pantheon Heaven. Alright, I'll bite it. Opened the link and immediately was somewhat appalled by what I was seeing. Holy shit, was I in the last decade or something? The user interface of this shit was pretty not great. Gold and black background with green text and an ugly font. Oh boy. It was a little charming, but most so annoying. It definitely ruled out the credible article idea from my mind, but might as well read it. Going through it, I realized this wasn't anything special. The post just talked about everything the initial article said. It also talked about JC's past, speaking about her fairly high regards. At the end, though, it did make an interesting point. It had echoed my concerns about why no one was talking about it. But they took it a step further, however. They complained this was part of a cover-up. The reason people weren't talking about it is because the people in power didn't want this to be talked about. So there were people who said things like this, huh? Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to believe the author held incredible truths about Panthea's nature, the delivery was all wrong. Sloppy, conspiratorial, speaking without evidence or direction. No, this was pure speculation on the article's part. I was intrigued with the site, though. I decided to click on the main homepage. Certainly made the whole biblical angle of the site's theming more blatant. Most of the homepage just showed recent stuff. However, there was a certain message emblazoned at the top with blocky gold letters that, well, spoke for itself. Walled off by its golden gates, Panthea poses as a heaven. In truth, it is ruled by an almighty power, a god. The god of Panthea has blinded the masses and controls the city. The site is the only one which can reach the truth hidden behind the golden locks. Well, okay then, that was certainly a take, I suppose. Felt vaguely cultish. Yeah, I mean, while I don't doubt it's entirely possible that Aija could have been controlling the narrative to some level, going and trusting a site that, first of all, has no idea what a UI is, or one of those graphic design is my passion memes, is not exactly good. And yeah, the fact that these kinds of things are always weird as a cultish sort of thing, where only we can be trusted, only us, only listen to us, do not listen to anyone else, friends or family, or conveniently anyone who could contradict us. That's very cultish. But hey, cults are interesting, and if I was looking to kill Tom, I could do worse than poking around here. There's something always amusing to me about crazy conspiracies, like they weren't real or anything. I mean, that's obvious. But they were a fun example of viewing creativity. I decided to click About Us to try and get a more formalized version of what the site's thesis was. Indeed, it led to a paragraph. However, before I read anything else, my eyes caught the name of the author, the Devil. Okay then, I like that. I could dig the satanic vibe. Probably some 16-year-old edgelord. Okay, Devil, blow me away. Have you ever felt like something wasn't right about Panthea? Ever felt you were going crazy, seeing patterns that didn't connect? Ever wonder why this place could be full of contradictions? Why to the world would we could look like a saintly place, yet at the same time be such a hellhole to its citizens? Why gangs never seem to leave? What if I told you this wasn't haphazard? These weren't just coincidences, this was a calculated conspiracy. I know, this sounds crazy. I mean, I'm literally using the word conspiracy to describe it. Well, that's interesting. Usually when people make these cultist only I know the truth things, they don't even acknowledge that it's any difficult. They usually just do the Emperor's New Clothes. Anyone who doesn't believe this is a fool. So, and you're not a fool, are you? And yes, with the intentionally gaslighting sounding statement there. Truth be told, that's probably why I don't find it as interesting as our player character here, because all they really do is pull the Emperor's New Clothes argument the moment anytime something sounds a bit off. But this person here, they're actually saying, okay, I realize this is hard to understand, but maybe if more of them did that, I might be in agreement with the player character a lot more. But if you're reading this, I think you're the type to look beyond surface descriptions. I trust you're intelligent enough to hear me out. Okay, now that's absolutely, You see, for a long time as a resident of Panthea, I've been collecting information for decades, and there are patterns you could find. Information that doesn't get advertised. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 5 on their own could be meaningless, but all accumulated. At some point, it's beyond coincidence. I will agree that there are some situations where things seem a bit too perfect to just be a coincidence, but that can apply for a lot of things. I mean, it's why I sometimes wonder if these strange, controversial profiles on social media and whatever might just be someone getting a laugh out of things just because everything seems so perfect. Same people, same families, same groups have thrived in the city for decades. They're unimpeachable. While the city looks chaotic, it's actually quite organized. While we fight amongst ourselves, people prosper. This isn't a mistake. When you look at the evidence, it's clear we are mere chess pieces being moved around by a great hand. By a god, the god of Panthea, controlling all the strings. They shape the city, their desires, our lives, or their mere whims. Intrigue, then enter the sight. I've taken great efforts to catalog all the minor details, small patterns, and all things that God hopes we will ignore. And through this, I hope to expose this god of Panthea, to dethrone them, and to this end, I've taken up a fitting name. I'm the devil of Panthea. Read more, and you'll see that joining my satanic army is the only correct option. Okay, now it's getting back into the creepy cult stuff again. Does kind of remind me, though, since some of the people watching me are aware of this, Oda Nobunaga from Japan's Warring States period took on the title of the Demon King of the Sixth Heaven at one point. And that's because one of his enemies declared himself one of the 4 heavenly kings or something like that. So he was basically all, well, if you're going to be Buddhist to Jesus, I'm going to be Buddhist Satan. To boil it down way more than I probably should, but you get the idea. It looks like that's basically what this guy's doing. Wow, I mean, wow, I'll give the devil this, they know how to entertain. Sure, it felt like a grade... Yeah, exactly what I... yeah, exactly, some teenage... Well, I use teenage edgelord, but this is a grade... This person says grade schoolers' idea of prose. But the devil had me hooked. It was a solid premise. I'd read a novel based on this idea, but somehow I doubt I could be taking this all too seriously. Well, what I know, I decided to get a second opinion. I looked up the site's name and wondering if any bothered to look into this person. To my surprise, somebody had bothered to look in the site. Found an article written for the Oracle. I wonder for a second. In the article, I look at the author's name. No, not a name I recognize, just one of their standard employees. While I was here, I might as well read the article, right? It told me pretty much what I expected. The devil wasn't exactly a credible investigator into corruption. The article pointed out how numerous of the site's posts just straight up contained factual errors. It also talked about how other posts seemed to misunderstand basic logic fundamentals like cause and effect or how probability worked. Mentions that so much happens in Panthea, the devil has a lot to pull from and try and make arguments. The article then tries to theorize the devil, judging by some of his posts, just some disgruntled lowercast worker who couldn't accept their place in life as their own fault. Now, this makes me think that they might be trying to... Because remember, our protagonist here thought it was... both me and the protagonist here basically thought it was some young kid trying to sound smart, but this person suggests it's just some disgruntled worker who can't... who just can't accept that they're smart. Alright, showing a bit of that Oracle bias at the end there. Yeah, exactly. Finally, the author concludes the site's not just stupid, but actively dangerous. The ill-conceived propaganda may be obviously nonsense, but the author sounds convincing enough. You never know what sort of empty person will take these writings to face value, and do something stupid. I had to agree on that last part. Maybe viewing the site as some fun time waster was underselling it. Maybe it wasn't even disrespectful. The devil is clearly deeply deluded, likely leading others astray as well, but I mean... Also, it did act as a good way to kill time, so there's that. So I decided to look through this site more. There's a decent array of articles to sort through. They were at the very least entertaining, and not for nothing. A little bit interesting. Better written than I'd have expected. And informative. You know, maybe writing this guy off completely wasn't such a good idea. Now, to be clear, I was in no way being brainwashed into believing some stupid conspiracy about a city god. I was very self-aware about this, just, you know, the devil raised some good points. If you look past the sloppiness and franticness, there was actually a lot of value to be read in these articles. If nothing else, it's a good reminder of how messed up things truly were. But I don't know, there's a certain situations I looked at and thought, you know, it makes a decent point. Like, there's definite connections. As they say, even a broken clock is right twice a day. The governor certainly shouldn't have the power to appoint the chief of police, and that definitely seemed prime for corruption. And just directly looking at the crime statistics, yeah, Olympus should be hurting a lot more than they really are. And what was the deal with these new servers being built all around town? Why can't we find out more about them? Some of the stories were straight up dumb, like the devil bore this one rumor of someone seeing a female police officer putting on a jet black mask at night. That felt like someone was just yanking his chain. Yeah, that's kind of a thing I've noticed. Whenever someone wants to expose something important, they like to throw in whatever every little thing that, they want to throw in every little thing that they can get at there on top of the big stuff, but all that really does is give reason to question the other stuff, basically. That's why I think it's better to focus on the actual damning evidence rather than just whatever minor complaints you can find. And then there's this one story about an underground network of homeless people that smuggled things underneath the city. I think I'd know about that if that was happening. So like I said, it was hit or miss. It's got me interested. Whether or not it was drawing the right conclusions, it was clear at the very least the devil had a lot of information. Something also caught my eye going through the articles. The devil made frequent calls to action, specifically about getting in touch with him if you have information or join the satanic army. Contact button was glowing gold on the left of all the articles as well, so it's clearly something this person prioritized. So you know, why not take him up on his offer? What's the harm? Contact button. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was just taken to a page with a single email address written out that was a bit underwhelming. Whatever, I could work with it. I copied the email address, opened my email account. I probably closed it, opened up and all. Probably an unnecessary precaution. Then again, judging by the characters contacting, it wouldn't hurt to be better safe than sorry. I probably see the email address, can't think of a proper subject line. Now, what to say? If I want to get information out of him, probably best to bluff a bit. As a fan, it sounded boring. Alright, then time to spin up a bit of story. Greetings, devil. Stumbled across your website. Alright, we're Olaf. I have to say, I was impressed. While I have some issues with the claims you're presenting, you seem like a knowledgeable person. You seem like the type to give truth others can't handle. Private investigator, trying to uncover some of the truth of the city by any service. I believe you might be a valuable source. I'd like to pick your brain on a few matters. If it's not any trouble, that is. I hope this message reaches you in good health. Yeah, sounds about right. For someone like this, a message like this would absolutely work. Right over to make sure everything looked good and hit the send. Cool. Interesting to see how that pans out. I decided to check back on the comments thread. I got a response. Oh, and an angry one too. Fun. Let's see. Nice guess, but you're completely wrong. Good to see you're just presumptuous prick I thought you were, though. Whatever it's worth, I'm actually a fire-good member within the company right now. That's why I can 100% say for certain the company is an absolutely dreadful place, and that's why I care about it so much. I know for certain that the guy at the same level as me routinely treats women inappropriately. Holy crap, they've been working at Blizzard this whole time! But this company won't do anything about it because he's a competent earner. On the other side of things, the CEO has recently been suggesting but really demanding people take a lot of overtime, and the whole corporate culture, it's intentionally kept tense and combative. I know for a fact managers of lower divisions are specifically instructed to not let people get too content or connected. I suspect this last touch might be a hollow effort to try and prevent unions from popping up. So yeah, mic drop, get bent. Oh, this is a cheeky reply. I liked it, I really did. For a bit, I was starting to feel bad. I think I was actually making somebody legitimately upset who was trying to help. Good know I was just having a back and forth, just another internet dipshit like plenty of other times. Not a particularly smart one, I had to say. I mean, really, I think a high-ranking member of Lipto would spend their time arguing with Kappa threads. Get real. If they'd gone for a low level, maybe I would have bought it. I don't know. You'd be surprised, actually, how many people spend more time on social media than they really should. No, this person was bullshitting, and I knew how to call them on it. Wow, it's a lot of... I don't want to say this, but as a matter of fact, I'm actually an employer. High-ranking one, too. That's how I know the examples are bullshit. I don't even have the faintest idea what you're talking about. Are certainly not been pushing for more overtime. Ensign. That would probably be something straight. Restore the beehive more. I was gonna move over to another tab, but I already got a response. Wow, that's a quick one. I refreshed the page, and sure enough, the comment popped up. Wow, it's low even for a Kamappa. Alright, employee. What title do you hold? Which facility do you work at? Level clearance. Pretty sure last question was bait. In fact, the whole barrage has just been bait. Instead of showing up their position, they decided to go on the offensive. They were calling my bluff. It probably worked out as bullshitting the same way I figured they were. Alright, game on. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm getting personal details on a Kamappa thread. The fact you even asked me proves you don't know what they were talking about. On bet boss catching wind in this combo. There, should sufficiently fend them off. After all, they likely switched to asking less personal. Questions would either be the type that could easily be looked up or the type that would be unverifiable. Good luck cornering me like that. I pulled out my phone. I had things related to my work I needed to check on. Getting lost in those details for a bit. After a brief pause, I decided to go back to the computer. I refreshed the page and expected a snide response. What I got? Shit, seriously? Lamo, this you? Link. Luckily I clicked the link. It took me to a Pyram account. Profile picture was an acne redhead forcing an awkward smile. Bro, waiter at Casone is looking for my big break. What the? How'd this person get their hands on this profile? How much effort did they... What's this point? And they're really going all Matrix for a conversation barely anyone's paying attention to? That's messed up. You know, I'm not gonna take this lying down. If you think doxing's fair game, go. I can tit for tat you all day. Hacking certainly wasn't my primary skill set, but also wasn't rubbish at it. Let's see what I can do. Let's just skip this for now. Okay, hell yeah, add a trace. Now let's see. Oh damn, I guess I stood corrected. The profile looking at was indeed a member of Olimpo. Shara Tucker. Some chick who dyed her hair pink from the look of the picture. How'd she get the position in a company at such a young age? She must have been pretty intelligent. Maybe even weirder was she was spending her time having an internet argument with randos, not just arguments, doing legitimate hacking to prove a point. That's that. I went back to the thread and responded. Wow, Shara, doxing. I expect Babe or one of Olympus' chief directors. Hope she that fear serves her right. My eyes were drawn to a little notification on one of my tabs. My alt email received a message. I tabbed over and sure enough the devil responded. Sick. That was a fast response time. I guess he probably had a lot of free time. That tracks. Open the email, excited to see what he had to say. Olaf, thank you for your email. I'm grateful you've reached out to me for a task. You couldn't have chosen a better person. You seem to share a common goal, trying to expose the true side of the larger world. You can see how some of my conclusion might appear stained, however. There's a lot of data to pour over and simply many things we don't know. I'll love to hear some of your opinions what's really going on. Perhaps we can compare notes. Up until now, this is about what I expected, but then the email took a turn and didn't see coming. To be honest, I don't actually have more evidence that I haven't posted to the site. Incontrovertible evidence. It's not exactly the type of thing I feel confident showing the general public, given my... To be honest, I actually have more evidence I haven't posted. Incontrovertible evidence, but I'm not careful. It's not the type of thing I feel confident showing the general public given my current situation. However, if it'll aid, I'll gladly share it with you. Huh. I leaned back in my chair trying to consider making with that response. Almost fell off due to my shitty chair. Then I had a notification in the other tab. I got a direct message on Compa. See what this is about. I moved over that tab and checked my messages from Chara. You know who I am. You should know better than anyone that I was talking about was absolutely legitimate. I poured through your message history and your true intent became clear. You're just trolling good reactions. You're just bored. Let me fix that. Delete last comment you made now. Identity, and I can give you some real juicy shit. That was a response. Interesting counterattack, to be honest. Damn, my internet shooting was really starting to produce results. Not one, but two people are offering some exclusive information. For the first time, I'd ask myself, do I actually want these answers? And I felt like I was getting in the middle of something completely something else. If there was some sort of major conspiracy, like the devil claimed, getting this evidence would be painting a pretty big target on my back, and honestly, I didn't know how to approach the Char situation at all. Deadlock we were at felt weird to me, but hey, I was getting information. That's what I wanted. So what the hell? Let's see what these people knew. Maybe dicking around on the internet would end up being productive after all. Isn't the internet a wonderful place? It's like a big masquerade party with an infinite number of attractions. I have never seen a more accurate feeling description of the internet before. I'm going to have to save that in my back pocket as well. Potential is, well, limitless. It's no exaggeration to call it a world in and of itself. A bad world at times? For sure, for sure. A dangerous one with pitfalls, villains, and the like. At times, a strange, confusing world. Sometimes a wonderful world, but as much as a new world as any alternate dimension, which I guess makes our Olaf here an interdimensional adventure. Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, although it's worth noting they have seemingly stumbled onto something bigger than themselves, two somethings. And you know what, let's table the devil discussion. I'm sure we could talk about that some time else. I'm also interested in what Miss Tucker has to say. She's offering some unique, unquote-unquote, real juicy shit, enticing to be sure, but do you think it's legit? I mean, really think about it. What sort of person we've seen so far? I think there's a good chance she's just taking the piss again. But I don't know, maybe it's genuine. Want to bet on it? Is Tora genuinely reaching out, or is it going to engage some counter-trolling? Okay, I like that. Let's go with genuine. I can see that. And how much are you willing to bet on it? Let's not bet too much because I'm not confident on it. Alright, cool. Another bet in the books. Guess we'll see soon enough, huh? We're gonna stick with each story until I get to a lock, I suppose. Brute force. Finally, I get a response email from the devil. It had taken quite a bit of time. Well, it wasn't fair to judge him so harshly. He probably had a life or something. The point was he was responding. I opened the email and began reading. Again, I have to apologize. At this point, I'm simply not willing to part with the evidence I have. Oh, damn it. We were on this. This is the problem with the conspiracy nuts. Even if they had some useful shit, they didn't know how to make good on it. This might be our dead end after all. Full honesty, it's only sort of one unique card I have up my sleeve. A trump card, if you will. And while I admire and appreciate your request being honest, I only shared a handful of emails with you. Surprise, surprise, I'm a little paranoid through a trust. Well, at least he's self-aware. Now, in all likelihood, you're exactly what you claim to be. Funny enough, is that paranoia was actually justified this time, but I can't rule out the chances you're one of God's agents. An angel, if you will. I won't. So for now, I think I'll have to keep that myself. That said, it doesn't mean I'm not willing to help. Far from it, I'd like to help you in any way possible. Any way other than giving the goods, it appeared. For a moment, I wondered if he even had this evidence at all. He could just be bluffing, trying to keep my attention. Only one way to find out. Let me talk a bit about myself. You might be wondering how I got all this information. In truth, you're not the first person to reach out to me. There have actually been a number of people who read the site and found the truths hidden behind the lies. I like to call these folks my satanic army. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek title, but you have to admit, it's a decent bit of good branding. You know what? I'm going to 100% agree with him on that. It is some very good branding. Alright, so what's next? Fair. Well, it's not the sort of group should have a branding. And not this kind of group should have a branding. Anyways, nobody's dedicated enough to actually do anything major on my behalf, and I prefer it that way. I don't want to drag in ordinary people above what they can handle. They've been doing an excellent job of reporting any suspicious information where they find it, and I do have a fair amount of investigating myself. I don't want to give too many details in the interest of protecting my privacy. Again, now that I suspect you. To make a long story short, I tried my hand at investigative journalism once upon a time. There's even a world where I might have worked at the Oracle. Unfortunately, that bastard Kane Shea turned me away, for bullshit reasons too. The purpose of this was obvious, because I made my true intents known. Kane couldn't have someone dedicated to find the truth of the Oracle. They posed too big a threat, and since he was safely in God's pocket. Now this was simply not true. After all, he let JC work at the Oracle. No problem there. Felt more likely that Kane had accurately pegged this guy as a conspiracy nut and didn't want to give him a job, and now this conspiracy nut was bitter, opening Kane to his conspiracies. Then again, JC did go missing eventually. I kept reading. Anyways, to camp on my skills to work at the Oracle, I now put them to work on the website, and I'm a damn good investigative reporter. That's how I got the evidence I mentioned. There's some of my bona fides. Now, moving on to more interesting subjects, you can say you read some of my site. However, given the quantity of work I put, I have to imagine you haven't gone over the whole thing. Try to work out how much you currently know, but I think there's a better option. I want to just give you the key points of my thesis. Not the vague, emotional marching orders I put on my site. I'm talking the brass tacks, the core of my argument against Panthea. That'll put us on even footing, right? Awaiting your response, the devil. Well, the devil's proposal made sense. Would save me the headache of having to spend any more time on that horribly ugly website, so explain away, devil. I began typing up my response. Yes, devil. I totally understand your hesitance to show me your critical evidence. In the spirit of working total honesty, I must admit it comes as something of disappointment, but your wisdom in holding these cards at your chest only redoubles my belief you are trustworthy. I can only hope that enough time I'll eventually be worthy of it, with the evidence. As for your story, Gone Kane Shea, I can only give my utmost to them. I haven't heard anything positive surrounding that man. I can only conclude that, as you surmise, he's in the pocket of something or someone larger than him. Hopefully it's through the work that determined individuals like ourselves that we eventually get where this is coming to him. I think your proposal about the summary sounds delightful. As you guessed, I haven't had the time to look through as much as I rightfully should, although I seek to remedy that soon enough. In the meantime, highlighting the points you feel particularly relevant will be helpful in our discussions. Thank you for continuing help on the matter. Send. Man, I didn't like kissing this guy's ass like that. Well, that's life. I tabbed over to the other inbox. Perhaps this conversation would be more fruitful. Turns out I got my response. I opened up and began to give it a read. So you want to hear some real shit? Well, here's some examples that's all gone to pot now. We could talk about, first of all, can we talk about the blatant nepotism? I mean, it's something of an industry standard, but that doesn't make it any less messed up. Their shit is straight up dynastical. Reminds me of monarchy. In fact, I'm pretty sure the comparison is deliberate. I think the Daismas would love nothing more than to evoke a monarchy and think themselves as royalty. Well, they did name themselves freaking Odin for one of them. They definitely think of him very highly. They think of Olympus as their kingdom. Think of their employees as their blessed subjects. The company is founded by Odin's father. After he passed at an early age, Olympus was a small time. His son inheriting, continuing the business didn't seem that bad. Then Odin turned that company into an empire and became proper chuffed at that beyond a healthy amount. I don't know what details well enough, but I can't imagine their growth was legitimate. Anyway, now Odin's practically retired. The next CEO in line is his oldest son, Art. He spent his whole life being taught by Odin how to run a company, learning all the worst lessons. He got a job here right out of college without an interview, and climbed the ranks with ease. Textbook's case of nepotism, probably bordering on illegal. Nothing what she said's been wrong so far, but it's also interesting to know she wasn't saying. Usually when people lobbied nepotism, Paulie was the critic's weapon of choice. And yet I hadn't heard a word about him. Curious. Really makes the family grip on the company so apparent is looking at their stock situation. Oh yeah, remember, from the detective story, Paulie is kind of a surfer dude who's kind of an asshole in the general sense. I can understand why he'd be more of a point of contention, because he clearly is not the type you'd want to trust with any kind of leadership skills, and if he actually has those, well, and if he's actually in a position for that one. Did you know that 75% of the company's stock is owned by the Daismas? That means a mere 25% is in the public. Ratios like that are unheard of and reek of paranoia. Yeah, I do know. Well, I do know it's not uncommon for the CEO and stuff to own like 51% of the company or whatever, so to ensure that no one can ever own more than they do. Well, 75% is pretty high. Sounds pretty high. If it doesn't make it clear the whole thing's a dodgy family business, I don't know what... Well, okay, maybe you don't give a shit. Let's go to monarchies then. Dynasties for the win, or alternatively, who gives a shit about who's in charge? Gonna be some asshole big shot anyways, right? I think I can get behind that second response. If it was just nepotism thing, I wouldn't care either. Problem is, like I said, Art learned all the worst lessons. He's been trained like a dog since birth, honing on to profit than all else. This has a robot-like rule from him. Maybe he has some empathy towards his rulers, maybe. But if he does, he certainly doesn't show it. He's prioritized getting the most out of his employees by any means necessary, and at times that can be carrots. He makes sure the place is pretty enough to feed his own ego. For the lower rank employees, he makes sure they get the respect they deserve, if only because his employees are a reflection of his. If only because his employees are reflections of him. I think it means him instead of his. As for the larger, higher ranked employees, I'm not gonna hold a typo against the writer all that much. With a game with this much text means that some spelling errors or mistakes are inevitable. As for the higher-ranked employees, he makes sure they get compensated well, if only to keep them loyal and motivated. But that's about where his generosity ends, because it's a matter of spending money on unseen affairs that don't really affect the bottom line. He cuts corners like a pro. Because if it's lower-ranked, he pays them barely minimum wage, safe from the knowledge they can be disposed of. Because if it's a higher-ranked, he facilitates a competitive atmosphere amongst his employees to keep them coming to him instead of each other. Yeah, that's a pretty common thing. Even in the oligarchies, they'd usually like to keep the lower ranks competitive amongst themselves so that they don't all work together. You could probably take out the guys in charge. His only concern is expansion domination no matter the cost. If a deadline's been hit, then people aren't going home until the work's done. If the investors are visiting, everybody's got to be on the best behavior. If the company's value is falling, it is everybody else's problem, and they'll be paying for it. Stuff again are the employees' faces when they leave the building, trying to spot a single happy one. Well, I think that last statement might be true of most jobs. It sounded pretty bad, sure, but nothing particularly outstanding. However, the message wasn't done. And here's the worst part. Art wants to win no matter what. Win what? That's unclear. Initially, it was to win control of the company over his siblings, but at this point, that war is long come and gone. Art's in charge. It's not like there's a compelling other company that Panthea really stands a chance against them. Olimpo is technically a national company, but I haven't heard many plans expand out in that direction yet. Maybe he's trying to win Odin's respect, but if that's the case, I almost feel bad for him, because that's probably never going to happen. Whatever the case, though, Art wants to win, and using the overwhelming power of his company isn't enough. He's willing to use illegal methods as well, which... what the hell? We've already got so much at your disposal, and we feel the need to resort to shitty tactics. One quick example. Olimpo basically has a manual on how to cheat government taxes. Olimpo does these pretty regular charity drives saying they want to give back to the community, but it's pretty clear just for looks. If they're really clear about the community, they wouldn't be bending over backwards to give as little tax money as possible. How IJ hasn't gone and patched up the loopholes that Olimpo's been using is beyond me. To at least get some revenue from city taxes beyond me. So yeah, all in all, pretty shitty stuff. You can see why I'm so pissed off about it. Yeah, sounds like a pretty bad situation. I'm definitely feeling pretty outraged in her situation. Not outraged enough to get in a bunch of petty Kamappa arguments, but you know, to each their own. Olimpo sucked. I didn't feel the need to fight that. However, there was something I thought worth saying. I clicked on the reply button and began drafting a response. That definitely sounds pretty shitty. I sympathize, I really do. I'd say changing jobs to a pretty high ranking. I imagine it's not really an option. Props for that, by the way. I mean, this economy, especially in jobs so competitive, that's gotta be a pretty big achievement. Anyways, those are some decent horror stories, but I mean, yeah, I believe them. And you know why? Because that's pretty much what corporations are like. I mean, I'm not trying to sound disrespectful, even though I definitely ain't coming off that way. I don't think Olimpo is especially monstrous. Most big companies end up real shit heels. Like you said, it's a natural slide, survival of the fittest, or in this case, the meanest. I bet anyone in a similar-sized company is going to tit for tat for you on those sort of stories. And for that to not be the case, you have to do some pretty large-scale changes, which go for it, I guess. But as it stands, it's just one story of a bunch. On a more practical note, I don't know what you can really do about it. I mean, if you imagine you're passionate, you plan to do something about it eventually. You're not one of those hypocrites that own any concrete change on things. So in that case, what do? You said Art's playing an illegal game, but really, I didn't hear you actually bring up any illegal acts. Like, you talk about the tax cheat, but if you call it a loophole, loopholes are technically not illegal. That is technically true, and yes, it is abused by companies all the time. Scummy, sure, but that's already a given. It's not like you can get them on a legal issue. I guess your backup would be about better management, keep climbing the ladder and supporting good people. Ultimately aim to put someone good in a seat of power, but if things are really dynastical, seems like that's impossible. Maybe we could try killing him? I mean, yeah, I guess asking if you have any real plans to do something. If you don't, fair enough. What was my point? I'm sure I had one when I started typing the response. Kept the conversation moving at any rate. Well, gave my response, see if the other league's gotten back to me. Well, new email. And yes, it is from the devil. That's what he has in store for me. Greetings, Olaf. Delightful. It's been a while since I was able to fully rant about the truth of the matter to someone unenlightened. This shall be productive for us both. Now where to begin? I suppose it's only right to start from the outside. Let us take the perspective of the most docile of sheep. Take us an aerial view of Panthea. From here you can see many problems: dissatisfaction among civilians, organized crime, poverty and extravagance, but you're liable to completely misdiagnose the core issue at it all. After all, from the outside, it appears as though the issues stem from the fact the city is at war with itself. At this point, it's useful to highlight the four principal factions we're discussing. In Panthea, there are four groups who lord above it all. You have Panthea's government, currently helmed by Governor Ija. You have Panthea's law enforcement, currently helmed by Chief of Police Ariane. Or is it Arain? You have Panthea's largest company, currently helmed by CEO Art Daisma. Then you have organized crime, currently held by Marduk. These four groups each have their own role. They keep different aspects of the city in check. The police threaten those who operate in crime-filled slums with the power to summon and withhold law enforcement at their will. The Duats threaten those who live in middle-class urban lives, extorting and harassing where they see fit. Olimpo threatens those who live in upper-class forests, the unyielding power of money and commerce to do as they wish. The government rules all them all, making slow, broad, unstoppable sweeps across the city with no check but the will of the people. No matter where you are in Panthea, you have to answer to at least one of these organizations, and to the untrained eye, it appears these four powers are in an unending struggle for power. Let's go through this a bit more in detail. First, you'd think Ija was against them all. You'd certainly think that if you listen to her speeches. She's passed the blame on everyone but herself, after all. She's chastised the police department for being unable to properly rein in the growing threat the Duats pose. She classified the Duats as the biggest current threat. The peaceful lives living in Panthea, calling people to action against them. She's rallied against Olimpo, calling them a damaging entity which hurts small businesses. In fairness, this much makes sense. When you're a politician who's been in power as long as she has, you have to spread the blame everywhere else. And she certainly hasn't done anything else in her run as governor, or that would outwardly help any of these groups. Oh, she hasn't. But she also hasn't really done anything to hurt any of them either. More on that point later. Instead, let's move to the police force. Again, we have a group that seemingly has rivalries with the other factions. I guess rivalries might be a bit harsh, but their job is to stamp out any crime. That means keeping Ija in check, making sure her campaigns and governance is above board. That means keeping an eye on Olimpo, making sure there's no corruption or white-collar crime going on there. And they are certainly meant to be hunting down the Duats, imprisoning them and hindering them every chance they get. Once again, a faction completely opposed to the other three, and then look at Olimpo, a company that's done no favors for the other three. They very conspicuously failed to give Ija and her government the slightest bit of praise and support. They're hesitant to employ the police, instead opting their private investigators and security staff. They very specifically and very publicly made their choice to give no jobs to anyone affiliated with Duats. So there you have it, Olimpo distances themselves as well, just like the others. Finally, let's look at the Duats. They're most obviously at war with the other factions. For rather obvious reasons, the Duats despise the police. Olimpo's stores have been the target of vandalism and looting from them, and hell, Governor Ija was almost assassinated by a Duat member. That attempt was foiled and the assassin jailed, but it's clear the Duats have no love for Ija. One faction against all three. The Duats, Olimpo, Ija's government, and the police. They're all at odds with each other. This conflict has led to a lot of the problems we've seen in Panthea, is what you'd foolishly be misled to believe. However, we're smarter than that. We see the bigger picture. This may be a good time to break and grab something to drink. You know what, Devil? You know what, Satan? I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna get a hydrate real quick. Alright, that feels better. Yeah, this is getting interesting. Are you following me so far? The Devil. Man, this Devil character shows me a compelling case against his own point. Everything he said tracks. That was all a bunch of established facts. Facts are pretty clear to show the city isn't under one person's control. If that was the case, sure as shit wouldn't be this much messiness. Where was he going with this? Whatever. I should respond to keep the conversation moving. Our response: Dear old Devil, thank you for typing all this up. I appreciate the effort you're putting into this. To your question, I am following along so far. Your explanation of how the city operates coincides with my current understanding. However, what's the next step I'm unclear on? The evidence does suggest that people are on different pages, but that doesn't feel right. Hopefully you can clear up the truth for me. After typing that, let's send. Hopefully the Devil is actually going somewhere with all this. I tab back to my private messages. Opie, looks like Shara sent a response. Goody, let's see what she has to say. Really insightful stuff there. You should do stuff about the bad things going on. You think I didn't already know that? Damn it, you're just laid out why it isn't... why isn't he to do things about it. For what it's worth, no, I'm not one of those people who just bitches and moans and no plans to do anything. For what it's worth, I'm currently working on that management angle you talked about. You're right, that's the most straightforward angle. Unfortunately, I have my doubts as to how that's going to plan out. There are times I get a sinking feeling I'm putting all my eggs in a faulty basket, if you catch my drift. If I gotta stick to my guns, if you're just asking whether I have a plan, yeah, I do. Also, why the tax thing isn't the only illegal thing. I consider the loopholes basically illegal already, but I digress. You want straight up illegal, though? Art is hardcore insider trading. He trades information about Olimpo's business future decisions for key investments from other big companies. He trades key investments for stock in other companies. He trades key stock in other companies for information about their future business. The sound thing's got a whole web of trades and offers that he carefully manages. Like, apparently helming the giant company is enough of an advantage. To achieve a complete dominating results in the business world he's been getting, he needs to pull out all the stops. Okay, this was juicy. This is the stuff worthy of my time. But how the hell did she know this? If she knew this, surely others would too. Now I know what you're thinking. How do I even know this? Well, damn, she had me dead to rights. Honestly, it was a stroke of luck more than anything else. I was about to come to the restroom at work, but then I overheard the conversation between Art and Odin. He was discussing the whole thing. Possible risks, rewards. Apparently not even the people he's dealing with know that he's the one behind all this. As far as other companies are concerned, this is the work of a rogue higher up at Olimpo. And guess what else? Not only do I know all this damning info, I even know where the damning evidence is kept. Art does all these dealings on a burner laptop in his office. I went and found it myself. He keeps it in a table drawer. Perks of being at the office, I guess. Beats the atmosphere at any rate. So yeah, I wouldn't call Olimpo just another morally bankrupt company. I mean, I don't doubt other morally bankrupt companies also do this, but at the very least, I can confirm they are doing illegal stuff. And their success can, in some large part, be chalked up to cheating. Well, not gonna care about that aspect of it so much. As far as I'm concerned, all large companies are cheating the market. Okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about. This is some actually interesting information. Something actually useful. This was exciting now. I hurried drafting a response. Damn, okay, yeah, it's a bit more weighty. First thing first, sorry about the tone and most of my messages thinking back. I was trying to get info. Curious about your management plan, but if you didn't elaborate, I assume that's for good reason. But about the laptop, I mean, probably point out the obvious, but if you're looking to charge in that prime opportunity, seems like getting your hands on that info would be a big get. Like, it's gotta be incriminating, and you clearly already have hacksaw skills to crack a burner. You even know where it is. Grab it and go. Make it a safety, break it open, send the info, and bye-bye Art. Or hey, maybe they use that for yourself and rake in the big bucks. To get my response, I send. Again, I was kind of pointing out the obvious, but hopefully I was also moving it forward, and that counted for something. Speaking of conversation move forward, it's time to check email. There it was, a response from the devil. Oh, well, let's just cut straight to the heart of the matter then, shall we? As of laid out, it appears to the untrained eye, four factions are at war with each other, but really, things they're levying against each other are ultimately very weak. They appear more like token gestures than anything else. Hydra talks about the police being incompetent, but does nothing else. She talks about Olimpo being damaging, but does nothing else. Hydra talks about the Duats being a threat, but does nothing. Police claim to investigate, but no one on our staff has been arrested. Police claim to investigate Olimpo, but no one on their payroll has been arrested. The police claim to investigate the Duats, but their group continues to expand. Olimpo speaks out against Aija, but does nothing else. They hire their own security investigators, but then do nothing else. Olimpo refuses to take on people affiliated with Duats, but does nothing else. Duats against the police. When's the last time you heard about a cop being killed? Duats against Olimpo, but who his vandalism and property damage is the best the Duats can do against him. I can understand them hesitating to outright attack cops because that's extremely difficult to cover up. Even if a cop going missing is going to be a big deal, especially since that's not something you can hide. Random police officers at the precinct have gone missing. Yeah, they're not going to take that lying down. But yeah, vandalism and property damage is like grade school level trying to mess with someone. Against Aija, but why was the assassination attempt carried against her foiled? Well, that could have just been they hired someone incompetent, or she was more competent than they were expecting, but you have to look beyond appearances. At these core, these gestures may be early that, gestures. When you want to establish people's true allegiance as law, you have to look deeper and closer. You have to examine their actual actions. Technically speaking, most of the things the devil's brought up at this point have been actions, but I get the gist of what he's saying. So then, what do the actions suggest? Let's start with Governor Aija. Vocally, she's against the current police force, but there's a detail she routinely fails to mention. It is Panthea's governor that appoints the chief of police, and the chief of police is pretty much the unimpugnable head of the police. This means the head of the one faction is directly responsible for appointing the head of the other. Tell me, does it seem remotely conceivable Aija could actually be against Ariane? Considering that. Next, let's look at the police themselves. They haven't found anything on Aija. They haven't found anything on Olimpo. Big whoop. Maybe they're all clean. There's one group that's not clean, and that's the Duats. The Duats are currently unopposed. Do you know how they won the war? Not through bloodshed, or at least not through bloodshed alone. Police cracked down on several high-profile members of Shikome. Most of those members ended up committing self-delete in jail. However, how then did the Shikome get wiped out while the Duats still run amok? If you ask me, I say the Duats sold the Shikome out to the police. And those two groups already had a point of contact. This is something Yi offhandedly mentioned. They have a contact with the police. That would explain why the Duats are bigger than ever right now. A better explanation than just chalking it up to mere incompetence. While I can get that, I must point out that, in the general sense, people seem to prefer a conspiracy to mere incompetence. Whether it's because someone just being incompetent feels a bit too convenient, or perhaps because it makes for more interesting truth if it's a conspiracy, but... Now, onto the Duats. Vandalism, property damage, what is that shit? Low-tier stuff for a group like the Duats. Complete nonsense. They're bigger than that. They should be, at any rate. Duats is strangling pretty much every business in Panthea, with one key exception. Olimpo is doing just fine. Has never been the victim of anything major. Is it because Olimpo is so big and powerful even the Duats are worried about rubbing them the wrong way? But Olimpo clearly disrespected them all with the no Duat-affiliated hires policy. That's not something that would be allowed to pass, even when you're a big shot Olimpo. That's not the gangway. The only reason Olimpo can get away with shit like that is if there's something more going on between the two groups. Now, speaking of Olimpo, you know the little they pay in taxes? Do you know how much of that is due to the tax loopholes they exploit? Tax loopholes could be easily patched up if Governor Ija gave half a damn, so why doesn't she? It's not like she could possibly be unaware of it. A big company like Olimpo, she could be counting on a paycheck from them alone. Except, what if she already has? If you look into her campaign finances, there's a lot of fog of war going on. A lot of major donations from shell organizations. It's hard to follow the money. And above all else, you should also always follow the money. I feel pretty confident Olimpo is actually financing her campaigns and maybe even giving her a little something on the side. Just a recap, on the face of it, all four factions look opposed, but in reality, Ige is the one who appointed Ariane, the leader of the police. In reality, the police seem to have worked with Duats in the past and aren't reining them in now. In reality, the Duats seem specifically deliberately targeting everybody but Olimpo, and Olimpo seems to be financing Ige's campaigns. They're actually all propping each other up. Which brings me to my final point. Did you know that last Wednesday, Ija, Ariane, Murdoch, Art, and Kyne were all unaccounted for at night time? What if they were going to a monthly in-person meeting to discuss things? A 6-person meeting, the 5 archangels, and the god himself. And here's where I started to lose me. This is the problem with conspiracy theorists. They always had to take things a step too far. Like, big surprise, you don't know where a mob boss, a rich executive, and a governor are doing on every given night. There's no reason to wrap Kane Shea into any of this except for the clear and obvious grudge you have towards him. Of course, it all had to be the work of a single, omnipotent god of sorts. Sort of thinking that made the whole idea look stupid. Meanwhile, the devil did have a very salient point buried in there. There are clear connections and contradictions between the big powers in Panthea. The issue is assuming there was one single, well-thought-out web. Life's too messy for that. More likely, these contradictions the devil we're seeing were the results of individual incidents, unseen causes and effects, and personal decisions. Pinning all these on a single cause was a hollow attempt to try and simplify things in an objective way. Hopefully, with that explanation, you start to see where I'm coming from. From here, we can begin work on the next steps. I eagerly await your response. Alright, well, I had to keep the dialogue going. Let's see. Dearie me, devil. I never looked at it that way. However, everything you said matches my information. I'm surprised I didn't put things together like you have. As far as more people haven't rejected the clashing factions view very clearly has been propped upon sham. If you actually look up who benefits, it's clear each of these groups has something to gain from the other. It's simple globalization. Sometimes life is a zero-sum game, but more often than not, it isn't. Working with others is often the best way to get what you want. It's like the old childhood moral of the true power is teamwork, taken to its logical and darkest extreme. When they stand united, they all stand to gain, while the rest of us lose out. It's clear to me now. I guess my next question is pretty obvious. Who is the god? The controller of these factions? You have to be pretty influential, right? I can't imagine the angels, as you put it, all bow to just some nobody. Who do you think is pulling the strings? I'm genuinely interested to hear his thoughts this soul. Kane himself does say he may be the most powerful person in the entire city, but at the same time, if that's the case, why did Ariane call him out in front of the rest of the police force? Or maybe that was just because she and him were in on it and they needed to get it going. And send. Alrighty then, back to Kamappa. Like clockwork, Kara heads into I think it's pronounced Kara. Center responds. It was really getting the rhythm of switching between simultaneous back and forth rallies. This was just an advanced form of switching between personas. Oh wow, great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Sarcasm. Okay, no need to get mean about it. I already said you had probably already thought of it. We're gonna keep reading. Obviously, I'd like to get my hands on that laptop. If I did, crack it open would be child's play. Art isn't some technical whiz. Probably has a super bare-bone digital security. The stuff on that computer would definitely put him away, or failing that, do some damage to him. At the very least, it'd make Odin reconsider his faith in art, but the one major problem with that sentiment, I have to get my hands on the laptop. Say what just still will about art, but he's very anal about security, especially on that floor. I could get to the laptop, sure, but getting it out? Not a chance in hell, not without some serious bribery or conspiracy. And I've not the slightest idea of how I'd start. Could Shara really be telling me all this? In fairness to her, she probably thought of me as the Void. As far as she's concerned, I had no dog in this race. Still, it was unnecessary risk on her end. Spoke the general attitude of carelessness on her part. Here's the funny thing about the whole thing. I actually got a good idea how I could get the data out of the building. It's a really solid plan, could definitely work. Problem is, it'd be a 2-person job. I need a partner for it to work. Wouldn't it need to be someone at the company? Mind you, anyone could do. And that's not the only issue. If they figured out the data was stolen, which could very well could, they'd be able to narrow it down to people with a certain clearance level. Not very many people have my level. They'd look for any visitors to Olimpo's main building. If anyone affiliated with me came to that time, it'd be curtains. They'd put 2 and 2 together. And I mean it. Art's serious about this shit. I've heard rumors he got a personal investigative team, and for the data that put him behind bars, he put out all the stops. He'd thoroughly vet anybody. Anybody came close enough to me that would help something like that would be figured out. And that right there is the final issue. I need the help of somebody close to me. Yeah, I'd need the help of someone close to me. Someone need help to commit a serious crime, and if I was caught, I wouldn't get the book thrown at me. I'd get launched at me from a pitching machine. It'd be a bad deal. And I think I'd be willing to take that risk. I'm fed up enough with this shit to go for it. But getting other people involved? I don't know. I think I could risk it. I don't think I could bring someone down with me. So TLDR, I'd love it, but right now it doesn't look like it's possible. I read Char's mission total 4 times, and I thought really hard. This was a bad idea, most certainly. A really bad idea. Or was it? Let's just throw it out there. So to pull off this heist, you need the aid of somebody you're not affiliated with, somebody there's no way they could connect you to, somebody who wouldn't feel bad about getting involved, somebody crazy enough to try a caper like this with no promise of a tangible reward for their help. That's a pretty tough recipe, but if you're willing to take a shot and you're willing to get your hands dirty, why not recruit me? Oh man, what a scene. Silver key collected. So much to discuss, huh? Well, let's get the bet out of the way first. You knew Miss Decker was genuine. Bully for you. Have your rightly won chips. Alright, now that's out of that way, you got to... What? Oh, this is awkward. I actually have to dip for a bit. Something needing of my attention. You can go on without me, though. Don't worry, I'll catch up to you. It'll be fine. Interesting. So I have a number of keys I can go with. I'm not going to use any of them yet. I could unlock our next for Thane here, so that's a bronze lock. Or I could continue the detective's role. Double down. What else? Seriously? Another big old video theorizing the identity of the auto larcenist? People are still poking into that case? Damn. Well, I guess it's a little impressive. Anyways, Kamappa scrolling was turning out to be typically uneventful as it often tended to be. Just some more time wasting. I decided to check out my alt emails inbox. Maybe the devil had a response. I remember the last email they sent me. I just asked him about theorizing about the identity. He was happy to respond. Ah, now we're getting the interesting part. The identity of the god. The most critical mystery Panthea hides from us. I have dedicated myself to finding them. Unfortunately, they have almost completely obscured their identity. It makes sense. They would not be able to reign for as long as they were sloppy, but they're not truly divine. Rather, they are human like me or you, and humans are flawed, humans are fallible, and humans almost unfailingly will make mistakes. Somewhere in this city, our tracing back to them exists. It's my sworn duty to find that trace. Laying it on a little thick, huh? I mean, it's good to have a clear mission statement, but it sounds like if that's their sworn duty, even failing so far. Here's what I assume to know so far. It's my opinion there's someone like you or me, a seemingly ordinary person. Not a grand monarch or a celebrity, just a particularly intelligent citizen. If a normal person was resourceful enough to understand where the locuses of the power resided, if they understood the advantages they could provide each other, well, it could take a lot of determination, hard work. But if you're intelligent enough, focused enough, even someone like you or me could set up such a network. Now we can make some assumptions. Having this much power, naturally they wouldn't be struggling. People grasp for power chiefly to improve their own station. However, if the god is smart, they might downplay their own finances, at least for now, to hide detection. But I doubt they'd tolerate absolute poverty. So when a focused, intelligent, ordinary person of decent status who lives in Panthea, that's where my web is currently fishing. When I read that, I remember audibly sighing. This guy really had a habit for seeing the forest for the trees. But this idea is just some random guy could be behind things, didn't track whatsoever. At this point, I was being more or less honest with the devil, and consequently answers with pretty much unfiltered opinion. I sort of get where you're coming from. However, are you sure that's the right conclusion? I mean, think about it for a second. I really doubt these angels would agree to this alliance without even knowing who they're working with. And people this influential, they could easily pool their resources to investigate who the god really was. I'm sorry, I just don't see any situation where the angels are unaware of their identity. Which in isolation might not be a problem. But if the god was really just our average day Joe Schmo, why would they even tolerate listening to them? I mean, at the start, going with the alliance makes sense, but there's no reason to keep the rando in the loop after a time. They don't really add anything of value. More to the point, they may even be a liability. In fact, if I had to guess, they'd probably just assassinate. Ultimately, I have trouble believing the current explanation. Say, here's another idea. Couldn't one of those angels you have identified be the god? That would make sense, right? I mean, a lot of them are already pretty big egos. It makes sense one of them would set this whole thing up. To be fair, it's kind of hard to pinpoint where the head would exactly be. Ija, Art, Modok, I could see any of them leading the charge, or alternatively, maybe there isn't a singular head. It could just be a committee of powers in that sense. In fact, that almost feels like a likely situation. I feel like some of these people wouldn't be likely to defer to others. They could just be meeting and coming to mutual arrangements. This email I thought was fairly diplomatic, however, been quite a bit of time since getting a response. Have I offended him now by giving the last blowback, or did he just have a life to deal with? That was a reasonable enough explanation. However, as I checked the email response tab again, I got a response. What did our best pal the devil have to say? It's a reasonable conclusion you've come to. I understand why you fail to see the bigger vision. However, it isn't right. Whenever you look at everything with conjuncture, you begin to see the truth. It can't be a committee. It's too unified. For a project like this, it needs a single helm. Ask anyone who's ever worked on a creative project. Democracy is nice, but to get shit done, you need a tyrant, someone to call the shots. Without a dedicated leader or director, the one who has the idea of the larger picture, things fall apart. There's countless stories of this. As for one of the angels being the god themselves, again, this isn't actually a bad theory, but I can't see it that way. After all, if that was the case, you'd see one of the factions getting an edge in the arrangement. But here, there's a delicate equilibrium. This isn't serving towards any one person power. Additionally, as you said, there's multiple big egos. None of them would willingly lower themselves to another big ego. That contradicts their view of the world. If they were to bow to anyone, that would have to be a neutral party worthy of commanding respect. Hence why I believe the god. And that's it. That's all he wrote. Seriously. Must have been forgetting the devil's bullshit. It wasn't a reputable source I was conversing with. It was a conspiracy nut. Still, these were particularly weak arguments. I thought him better. The idea that you couldn't properly rule a city with the committee is a laughable, horribly tortured argument. The idea of a situation not favoring one faction in particular means God couldn't be a faction. It was ridiculous, as that wouldn't be a result of the god making sure they stay fair as to keep the arrangement together. The idea that Marduk or Ija wouldn't bow down to Art or vice versa when putting together a city-changing conspiracy is a fundamental inability to withstand human behavior. I decided to tab over to my Kamappa account. I had sent a message to Chara a while ago and hadn't gotten a response, which makes sense, she was busy. We hadn't talked since my role in the plan. However, the USB I delivered to her would be useful. I mean, it was really a pain getting involved in the whole mess. Better have been worth it. Refreshing that page, seemed to have gotten a message recently. Well, isn't that case good timing? Let's see what she has to say. I was a little excited opening up the message, thinking of the fruits of labor of our heist. Hopefully there'll be some juicy shit. Hey Olaf, good to be able to finally get a message to you. Sorry for being MIA, life's been busy as you can imagine. I just wanted to thank you. Honestly, when I suggested helping out, I didn't know what to think. I thought you were pulling my chain, or worse, this is some sort of trap. But you really came through. When we got to planning, it was like you were a completely different person. I didn't realize you could actually be serious, but you were. And hey, the plan didn't exactly go perfectly. On my part, I had to improvise. Because of that, I kicked up a bit of scrutiny. They found out about that faster than expected. Nothing laid back to me, but Art's probably going to be more guard from now on. But all in all, succeeded. It's because of your help and suggestions, so thanks. Thanks, Car. It's nice to be appreciated. I'm curious about one thing, though. Why do the whole dead drop thing? I mean, fair enough. It wasn't a problem for me. And hey, maybe you're right. There's too much of a risk for us to be seen together after working together on a theft and all. But I don't know. It sort of seems like the more reason to at least meet face-to-face for a drink or two. After all, we already know each other's identities. Not quite, Shara. True, when you presented that Pyram account, it was taken quite aback. That bait was layered pretty deep. I made sure to connect to my IP address in a subtle way. You'd have to be a deft hand to make the connection and find that decoy, but it was just that, a decoy account. Anyone who's been on the internet for any amount of time knows how vulnerable you really are on it. There's hackers everywhere. This much was only a sensible precaution. Maybe hiding my true identity from Car wasn't strictly necessary, but as far as I'm concerned, the longer you pegged me as a person from that dummy account, better. Dead drop works much better for me. Not for a dampen our parade, but I'm a little worried about this info actually does. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of shit on this. Like, oh boy, cavalcade of financial, transactions, conversation. If you're a Wall Street shark, this little info stick would be a veritable arsenal that would let you wreck shop. Haven't you had the time to look over it all? It was one little snag. Call me surprised, but Art seems to have paranoid. Planning to hide her hair of him is tricky. He's gone out of the way to distance himself from these transactions. In fact, as far as I can tell, he's even gone as far as planting some red herrings to seemingly contradict the idea that Art was behind this. Messages sent when Art was publicly accounted for. Information that Art should have known, yet publicly, Art didn't take advantage of that knowledge. Nothing that couldn't be solved by system time-delayed messages and calculated losses. But if I didn't already know for sure Art was behind this, I wouldn't peg him as a suspect. Legally, I suspect this info is important, especially with a super-duper dubious chain of custody. Now, if we could have made away with the whole laptop, maybe we could have gotten something else, but just the USB, that wouldn't work. We could instead go the public route, try defaming him. That'll backfire as well. He's got teams of publicists and decent reputation. Dumping all this is revealing my hand, and if his team remotely decent digital forensics, my identity. All in all, it's looking like this wasn't the silver bullet I thought it was. What a bummer. Well, it's sad to hear, but not entirely unexpected. If I remember everything I knew about Art, he was the type to be thorough like this. Still, it's too soon to chalk it up as a failure. I decided to draft up a reply. Hey, Chara. Happy to see things went well. Maybe now you're seeing my greatness, but in seriousness, I'm glad we were able to work together. Sorry about the dead drop. Like you said, I thought being together was risky, since we did, you know, crime stuff. Maybe it was excessive, but live and learn. If you want to meet up, just HMU at some point. What sucks about not being able to screw Art, though. Of course, that asshole covers his tracks. It's very frustrating. Still, I think this probably counts as a win. The end goal is to depose Art, right? It still helps with that. Like you said, this info should help, like, trade dealings. You probably have some decent money. You being a higher-up Olimpo person, right? You're clearly smart. Gotta make good on the info. Using your resources to start snatching up stock. I don't know the stock situation, real Impo is doing super well. When I said earlier, Dive has a lot, but there's gotta be some that's up for public. You can consolidate that, you will get some leverage, you don't even need to own it, just have some temporary usage. Obviously that's just step one, but step one's a step, you know? Maybe I just don't want to feel like all our work was for nothing, but I don't know. Your fight, tell me if that makes any sense. And with that, I sent the message. Hopefully it cheered Kara up to some extent. You know, it's too silent. I thought about playing some music. And at that moment, I heard knocking. Guess I can actually register this. Someone knocking at the door. Pretty much no one knew about this place, which means I sighed. Must be the time. Well, time to get this over with at some point. Can't say I was happy, but oh well. All because of that hidden camera. Can't believe I missed a hidden camera. Puts hidden cameras in visitor lobbies. No sense, absolutely none whatsoever. I was sloppy and now I had to deal with this. Luckily, she told me about the visit. If I was completely unaware, I'd be really upset. Slowly, I closed my computer and stood at my feet. I wasn't exactly eager to go to the door, but I had before long. Walked forwards and grabbed the hotel door, and I opened it. I was greeted with 3 imposing figures. Hello? Are you Eris Smith? Yep. Good. Would you mind if we come in? We're acquaintances of your sister. We have some stuff we want to talk with you about. Ladder long sigh. Fine, okay. Not like I've got anything else going on about now. Might as well make yourself at home. Leaving the door open, I turned around and went to sit back down on the couch. The officers made their way to the room, remaining standing. It was a nice place I was living in, one of the best hotels in Panthea. I had one of the better rooms. Nice large bed, freshly made, mini cooler stacked with waters. Big window with a view of the city, covered with curtains as they may be. They weren't good enough for curtains, though. Failed to really block out the light. I knew that because the light kept seeping through the curtains was the only source of illuminating the room at the present. Though that didn't last for long, as Baldera walked over and flipped on the light switch. There, that's better. It's nice to meet you, Eris. My name's Baldera. Grumpy Pants over there is Seth. Is that really my nickname? Could that not be my nickname? And of course we got Police Chief Ariane. It's not often I waste time with home visits like this. Is that right? And why are you here bothering me? I've taken an interest in your sister, so by extension I have some interest in you. Of course you have. Sorry, circling back, are we bothering you? Totally sorry about that. We really didn't mean to, just save her a bother. Although you really don't have that much of a choice. Quite you. Eris, I'm friends with her sister, so I'm sure we'll get along. If you're friends with my sister, I'm sure we won't. Are you not that close to Laverna? Oh! Not close. Try actively attempt to spend a little time thinking of her as possible. Huh. There's a story there. No, there isn't. Have you met her? Fair point. Anyways, why don't you tell us more about yourself, Eris? I'd love to get to know you better. What are you for a job? Currently, I guess I'd be considered unemployed. That's an interesting way to phrase that. Quite a nice apartment for someone employed. Well, up until a short time ago as a lawyer. Really? Yep. Not the fun kind, though. Worked at a big corporate firm. Help with shit like mergers, patents, that sort of thing. Paid awfully well, but I mean, damn, there's not a job on earth that'll suck out your soul faster. Decided to bail, I've been happier since. Of course, I gotta do something for it too long, else my war chest is gonna start running low, but for now, I'm just chilling. Impressive. You look a little young to be retired from corporate law. Thanks, I guess. So where are you from? I mean, not from Panthea, right? No, I'm not. Used to live in Hightower, actually. Ooh, I know that city. I took a trip there once. It's nice. Then you weren't there long enough. But yeah, Hightower born. Laverna and I grew up there. There really isn't a real reason we grew apart. She was just irritating to me. I mean, sure, it was a little bit more annoying than our parents. Always gushed about how gifted and talented she was when I was just as smart. And I am, for the record. Graduated from law school, in case you forgot. But no, the real reason we weren't that close is we just had different values. She had a tendency to get all morally righteous, poking other people's business when no one was asking her to. Total snitch toward the teachers. And just, like, weird. Like, really weird. I don't know why. We grew up in the same place, and I've got no idea why she acts like that. I don't know. She's just a little difficult to stand. I mean, did she ever tell you about her first investigation, how that panned out? Total train wreck. Come college time, we went separate ways, and I never really stayed in contact since then. That works just fine for me. Well, nice to know there was a normal one in the family. Seth, not nice. Hey, don't tell me you don't appreciate on some level someone who speaks normally. Oh, damn, don't tell me she still does that fake accent thing. Holy shit, really? That's so embarrassing. Please tell me she's at least gotten better at it. Back in the day, I couldn't even tell what she was going for. It just felt vaguely European. That's, what I'd classify it as. Oh, Laverna. I reached out to my water bottle and took a sip. Hey, she's just handling investigations, right? No active crime scenes, catching the culprit or anything like that. For now, correct. Keep it that way, would you? She's good at that. She's pretty smart. And say what you will, she's got a pretty big heart. She wants to help people, but despite all that, she's really dumb in a lot of ways that matter. I just don't want her getting in over her head or something, and knowing her getting in over her head is like a gut instinct. Ah, you really do care about your sister, don't you? That's sweet. I care about my wallet. Paying for a funeral is gonna be a major headache. That's about as far as it goes. Really cut her out of her life. Why'd you both end up moving to Panthea? I didn't have a good answer to that one. Okay, enough pointless small talk. As you might have suspected, we did not come here for a house visit. You're currently a suspect in an ongoing case regarding property theft, specifically abetting a thief who made away with a data strip containing vital information. Top secret Olimpo company secrets. Yeah, I don't know. Laverna told me all about this. Apparently someone swiped the data from the computer and put on a USB stick and threw it out the window. Now, because of some stupid security footage, you think I have something to do with the whole mess. Wasting your time. Laverna revealed all that to you? I mean, in so many words. Feels like it's bordering on a breach of protocol. Having an investigator with potential conflict of interest. Oh, ease up, Chief. She was just warning her sister what you're going to be asked about. What's the crime in that? Breach of protocol. That's the crime, as I said. Far be it for me to try and defend Laverna, but I don't exactly see the harm from telling Eris just that much. Seems like pretty basic info. Thank you. Glad at least one of you has some sense. Hey, I also stood up for you. Okay, you get partial credit. Enough. Answer the question, Miss Smith. You haven't asked one yet. Let me do your job for you, though. What was I doing there? I was doing what I wanted. The Olimpo main building is pretty. I was wandering over the city, decided to check it out. Sat in the visitor's room for a bit, lost track of time. You really gonna arrest me for that? Not for that alone. As far as I see it, that's all you got, though. You wanted my answer, you got it. Sorry, but your accomplice must be somewhere else. Is that so? Unfortunately for you, it's not that simple. Based on my understanding of the case and Miss Vasquez, correct me if I'm wrong. If I messed up somewhere, I was absent for this particular investigation, but based on my understanding, we have a very specific time frame for when the data was dropped from the window based on when an employee was out getting coffee. You were in the visitor's center during a certain time frame. Ah, what a coincidence. I was pretty zoned out, though. The accomplice must have been a third party. According to surveillance footage, you were the only person in the visitor's center during the critical time frame. The only one? That seems weird. I guess the accomplice just didn't stay in the visitor's center? Are you suggesting the accomplice waded into the water feature to pick up the strip after the fact? I mean, you got it. Surely someone would have seen such a scene. Do you have any proof of that, though? Any accounts saying that someone didn't enter the water feature at the same point of day? Another camera over there, perhaps? Unfortunately not. Then I think we can't make a judgment call. If the data strip was not caught, it would have hit the cement floor, and the water would not soften the blow by any significant amount of time from a high fall. Knowing this, the strip would have been damaged. Yeah, maybe. Maybe not, though. There's some really resilient tech out there. I don't think you can really make that argument definitively. Depending on how high that fell, it's entirely possible that it could survive without any significant damage depending on the type of USB stick. But again, it's mostly recent ones that have been advertising themselves as heavy-duty protective. But then again, I haven't kept up with the exact details. I mostly just get new ones whenever I need them. Some little insight from my time on the force. The ones who hide behind a lack of definitive proof are in reality guilty 99% of the time. Hey, would you look at that? I'm finally part of the 1%. Dream come true. Q. Seth and Baldera very specifically were keeping quiet. They just watched us back and forth, bated breath. Alright, fine, you really want to suspect me. Why, exactly? Why? Why would I do this, then? How exactly did I get drafted to be a criminal accomplice? Am I a contract thief? Do I have any contact with an Olimpo employee? You tell me, Miss Smith. I don't know you. Unable to make such a judgment call. He gave a short whistle. Okay, you know what? That one's fair. You win that point. Let me flip your question back at you. Why did you take part in this theft? Money, a grudge? Can't answer that because I didn't do it, but I can flip the question one more time. Why do you care about this so much? Why do I care about solving crime? Are you aware what police officers do? Yeah, you solve crimes, big whoop. I know your track record. You let plenty of criminals fall to the side. Crime's way bigger than this, and yet you're making house visits to a vague suspect over a bit of stolen property. Alleged stolen property, I might add. Unless I wasn't told something, the idea the Bayer strip was taken from the broken computer station. What are you getting at? I don't think it's coincidence you just happen to care so much about what's happening on Olimpo's dime. Just admit it. You're another one of their lapdogs. Another branch of their private investigators that wears a fancy badge. I am no one's lapdog. It's pathetic you have to devolve to such baseless slander. I don't have to do anything, but it sounds like to me like you have to bail out your employer, Olimpo. That's what's going on, isn't it? You can admit it. You are imagining things. Yeah? Then why haven't I seen any of those Olimpo bigwigs in handcuffs? Don't tell me the office isn't a hotbed of white-collar crime. If you put your mind to it, you could probably walk half the top floor of that building out in shackles. The fact you haven't tells me everything I need to know. Enough. Here we go. I annoyed Ariana to the breaking point. It's clear to me this is a pointless meeting. You should pray no further evidence shows up. If you were to be so lucky, then this will be our last meeting. I've wasted enough time. I wish you a good day, Miss Smith. Just like that, she turned around and walked out. Down the door at you. I had a feeling that if I poked Ariana enough, she'd just get up and leave, knowing that she had nothing definitive. Lucky for me, annoying people was a specialty of mine. Now I was just left with Baldera and Seth. Baldera naturally felt awkward. That could have gone better. Now my fault. Not saying it is. Oh? So you think Ariane's fault, then? No, not at all. Messing with her was turning out to be quite a bit of fun. Let me ask, do you agree with her assessment, though? Do you think I'm responsible for theft? Well, probably not. Probably not? Yeah. Alright. I like that answer. Oh, good. I was afraid you would have been offended. Takes a lot to offend me. Alright, well, this is nice. I have to get going, though. Don't want to keep Ariane waiting for too long. But we should hang out sometime. You, me, your sister, we can have a girls' night out. It'll be fun. I'll think about it. There you go. I said I'd think about it. He'll come around. Okay, bye. And like that, Boldero left. With that, I was left with one. Seth had been quiet for some time. I crossed my arms. You still here for a reason? You care about your sister, right? I don't quit the shit. Give it to me straight. Yeah, okay. I'd rather not see her hurt if possible. Well, if that's the case... Seth looked back and forth, checking for a non-existent threat. You should try and convince her to back off. Back off? As you probably guessed, she's quite inquisitive, raises a lot of questions. That's not exactly safe around here. A detective isn't safe asking questions? What sort of system's that? The type of question she's looking into. Look, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying Panthea doesn't have a good track record for things like this. People who pry into things tend to fade out of the picture one way or another. I wonder, did that comment have anything to do with JC? Or someone else? It makes total sense my sister is getting herself into danger, but we're not that close. If I could have reined her in, I would have done it a while ago. I get that, but still, you should try. If you don't, something might happen to her. There's something more painful than losing someone you're close to and knowing you could have saved them. Trust me on that. Fine, you can't stop her from being her. Then at the very least, you should let her know she's surrounded on more sides than she thinks. She needs to keep an eye out. I'll let her know. Good. Okay, I'll get out of your hair now. Seth awkwardly makes his way out of the room. As he left, I gave a message. Thank you for the tip. Seth didn't respond, just briefly paused. Surrounded on more sides than she thinks. What are these sides, and why did he wait until the others were gone for giving that message? Ironically, despite being the biggest this buzzkill, Seth may be our best bet. Whatever. Forget it. I could deal with that whole encounter later. For now, though, I want to decompress. A good way to do that would be to spend some time on the computer. Open it up, put on the music I said I would. Music helps me think. Kept me in the groove. Okay, feeling better already. What to do? First up, I should respond to the email the devil sent. I didn't have much to say, though. I considered for a minute how to proceed. Then in defeat, I just went for the tab. Whatever, I'll be diplomatic. Maybe you're right. It is a confusing situation. I'll agree at the very least there isn't a clear solution. But I still think the problems I've theory that a complete random stranger is the god holds up. I just can't picture that, I guess. It's possible I have less perspective on the issue than you do. Even so, I think you might be a bit overconfident. With so little known, it just feels weird or so certain. I could be mistaken, however. With that, I sent the email. It was about as diplomatic as I could manage. Fundamentally, we just had different opinions on the matter. There's no getting around that. I tabbed it over to Kampa. Kara responded. This felt more like a fruitful conversation. Where's her head at? Might take you up on that offer for drinks one of these days. We'll probably get too busy for the foreseeable future. I'm one step ahead of you on the whole stocks idea. Like you suggest, I've been trying to consolidate as much stock as I can in my free time. A like this will definitely be useful coverage in the whole struggle. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. Nothing is for sure. As much stock as I collect, it'll be pretty tricky to do anything unless I get at least 2 of the Daismas on side. That should give you some idea of how much they hoard their shit. For sure, at least 2 of said Daismas are complete dead ends, which means a strategy involving purely around gathering stock is dead in the water. Luckily, there's still other avenues to pursue. Most have any success involve coming at art directly. Scary prospect to be sure. They're all pretty half-baked, but I'm gonna keep at it. One success propels to the next, you know? What a nice, optimistic message looking in the future. Almost felt out of character. Still was good to hear. I quickly shot back a reply. Good to hear. Excited to dethrone the douche. It'll be hard, but so is everything worth doing. Obviously, you know about more of the situation than me. But if you need help and some non-help again, you know how to get me. I got your back. Good luck. And send. Hopefully she got the sense that I wanted to earnestly help. Hope I feel like she already thought that, but a little reinforcement never did anyone. Oh, what's this? A reply from the devil. This fast? Sort of unexpected, but okay, let's see what he's got. I didn't expect much, and sure enough, I wasn't greeted by much. A short message with an attached file. You need more perspective. Very well, I'll let you peek at one of my cards, a recording for your ears only, and that was it. Well, and I had to hear this recording. Hell, the recording was encoded with some encryption bullshit. This is what the devil meant by your ears only? Damn paranoid conspiracy theorist. What if I wasn't gifted with hacking? Well, I suppose it was something of a moot point. After all, I was. To work I went. Actually, before I forget, I should mention, this puzzle also has blue tiles with numbers in them. Alright, so you know how I said live regions can't have more than one numbered tile? So I guess I kind of lied. See, blue tiles with numbers on them can be added to a live region. So if a blue tile with 3 can be included in another live region, and that region will contain 3 more live tiles. Well, can. Actually, blue tiles have to be added on another live region. Like parasites, ooh, Trojan viruses, that's hackery. Whatever, you get it, get to work. We'll have to do this one later then. That took some effort, better be worth it. With a chip on my shoulder, I pressed play on the audio file. As I listened to it, I ended up being the audio of one side of a conversation. I didn't recognize the gruff voice, but by the end I could make a pretty good guess of the mystery man's identity. It really is a pain. I mean, damn, I am the leader of the most fearsome gang to ever rule Panthea. Do I really have to listen to... Yeah, I know all that. Don't you lecture me about respect. I understand it better than anyone else. Yes, results I understand. Still, it is a matter of pride. Yeah, this is definitely Marduk. The clip cut out there. Did Marduk, the leader of the Dwats, just confess he had to listen to somebody else? The devil knew what he was talking about. So we got ourselves a lawyer, huh? That's something. You know, people really seem to hate lawyers. They say they belong in hell, or that they're actually demons. Modern culture even likes to depict contracts as a signature weapon of Satan. Legal systems and hellish creatures inexplicably linked for whatever reason, because both of them have to do with judgment, and people are uncreative. But I digress. Lawyers are simply the devil advocates. So I guess I could say I'm a big I guess I could say as a big Satan fan, I'm offended. Don't pin that shit on us. Are you kidding me? If you ask me, lawyers are far more aligned with the angelic figures. They enforce rules, they forget human emotion, they protect the status quo. You call a lot of them God's emissaries, and there's a much more fitting moniker, if you ask me, and much more scalding. But no, I'm surrounded by Puritans. They don't see things clearly, but you're not like them, right? Yeah. Right. That's why I like you. That's why we work so well together. So to learn Eris is a lawyer. Well, who knows? She used to be a lawyer. Now she's interacting with the devil. So there's hope for her, I think. That's another bronze lock, but I don't want to do that one yet. Flashlight. Stacked deck. I was never a big fan of the sea. I know people say there's beauty in it and all, but I just never got the appeal. The ocean was just so large and chaotic, made me uneasy. If I never stepped foot on a boat, I'd be perfectly content. Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be a possibility. I was visiting the seaside specifically to board a rather large boat. Unlike some of the other ports in Panthea, this one was pretty out of the way. You had to walk on land for a little bit to get to it. That made sense to me. It wasn't as if many people were going to be using this port. It was apparent from the fair distance that most of it was taken up by one rather large freighter ship. In fact, when I first approached the port, I imagined that was the only ship dock there. However, when I got closer, I saw a smaller, humbler boat nearby. Probably someone's personal sailboat. Man, imagine having your own personal sailboat. If only. As I got really close, however, I noticed something. The boat wasn't actually properly tied to the dock. Instead, it was slowly drifting away. If I didn't do anything, it'd be far from the port before too long. I tried to reach over and grab it, but it was too far. Is there anything within arm's reach to pull it back? Fortunately, this search of mine came up empty. Well, damn. It'd be smart to just ignore the ship and move on. I had nothing to do with this. Walk away, Mercury. I took 3 steps back, then slightly nervously, I ran and leaped. Please don't let this go wrong. Falling in the ocean now would be a huge pain in the ass. Luckily, I was decently athletic. I landed in the boat without too much issue. Great. Annoyed, I began paddling with my arms the opposite side, trying to float closer. There had to be a better way to do this. Oh well, this worked. Soon enough, the boat was close enough that I could grab its rope and jump back on. The rope I properly tied the boat to port. Sheesh. Now my arms were all wet. Whoever owns this boat should really be more responsible. They couldn't count on strangers docking their ships for them. Well, whatever. That handled, I turned and went to the actual task at hand. For me, on the other side of the port was a humongous freighter ship. Frankly, it was kind of ridiculous how large it was compared to the dingy sailboat I just boarded. And written across the side, in a big white painted letters, was the word Madjet. It was the right place, alright. This ship, I was on the right track. The horrors that occurred on this ship, I shuddered. Part of me wondered if I should just casually be doing this by myself. This job felt to be better suited for, I don't know, a cop or something, but it wasn't really an option. So it fell upon some rando like myself to get the job done. With this thought, I got a buzz on my phone. Please don't be who I think it is. Yep, it is. A text from someone I would call a coworker. Hey, where are you? Oh, damn it. Are you serious now? I shot back a reply. Why do you need to know? Are you my keeper? I get another text. What? Look, I don't need to know specifically where you are. Just meant you got a job to do. I'm aware. Are you aware this is my day off? Yeah, I know. You said that. I just could really use your help. It'd be really helpful if we could swing by. I'm sure you could handle things by yourselves. If a single employer was really that important, I'd get decent pay. With that, I shoved my phone back in my pocket. I didn't really have it in me to argue with my coworker. Pain in the ass, more like. Working myself to the bone, day in, day out. I hadn't had time for myself in weeks. I was owed a little personal adventure. Alright, back at the task at hand. How the hell was I gonna board that ship? Well, if my intel was right, nobody should be on board right now, so how was someone supposed to be on board get on? After looking a bit around, I found a ramp to the ship at the end of the port. Well, that's one way to do it. I walked on over, was greeted with a chain fence with a sign prohibiting me from entering. Physically speaking, it didn't do much to stop me. Mentally, though, it did give me pause. Do I really want to do this? If I board the ship, best case scenario, I'm committing a crime, and if the rumors are true, well, boarding a ghost ship didn't sound like mine of a fun time. However, the hesitation was pretty brief. I didn't go all the way out here and clear my schedule to be turned away by a sign. Nobody would know if I just hopped aboard for a bit. What's the harm? With that dismissive thought, I easily scaled the fence and made my way aboard the ramp. After a longer walk than I would have expected, I was finally aboard the Madjet. Sick. I began to wander around the top of the ship, just sort of exploring the area. It was really something to behold. Dozens of the large containments were stacked all over the place. A lot of cargo ships would keep the units in orderly rows, but the Manjet had spread these out seemingly haphazardly. A part of me wondered if, when viewed from the aerial position, the containment boxes would spell out a word or have some sort of design. The containers themselves were also notable. I'd always seen pictures of them, but this was my first time seeing one up close and personal. First time touching one. Up close, you could really tell how many people just one of these containers could fit. Was this where it happened? Was I on the wrong path? Or was this the place that... Shit, a deep-seated rage, one I had pushed for a while, started to flare up. Easy, Mercury. Calm down. Compartmentalize. From the start, I decided to keep myself from getting too emotionally attached. That was a recipe for disaster. This wasn't some haphazard quest for vengeance. This was a search for the truth, plain and simple. But still, looking around, it dawned on me. This was likely the location where it happened. The boat in which she died. Where she died and no one knew. Nobody cared. Well, not nobody. That's why I was here. I repeated a brief, silent promise. A promise to nobody. A promise to set things right. Then I shook my head. That was my daily dose of sentimentality. Time for practicality. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. However, whatever was left is probably one of these containment units. So time to start looking around. As I moved on from unit to unit, two things struck me. One, usually units like these should have some sort of locking mechanism on them. However, I didn't find anything like that. Maybe it was connected to the point too. Usually containment units, contain things. All these were empty. For the time being, at least. Unfortunately for me, that also extended to being empty on clues. From unit to unit, I searched looking for any trace of, well, anything, but I was faced with dud after dud. This was the sort of reception that was incredibly demotivating, the type that made you want to just stop right then and there, but I'd gone too far to stop after a little bit of resistance. I just kept searching. Persistence paid off for too long. In a red containment in the middle of the ship, I noticed something on the floor. I bent down and looked closely. Was I sure about this? Oh yeah, I was sure. This was definitely blood. Flecks of old blood, most of it washed away, but looking closer, it was definitely blood. Yeah, it was a bit concerning, but at the same time, vindicating. Not as vindicating as what happened next. I was bent down, trying to look closer at the blood, when the doors of the containment unit slowly closed behind me. Not because anyone closed it, it's just the sort of thing where the momentum of doors did it by themselves. At first I was annoyed. Because of that, the light in the unit dropped drastically. However, as I moved to open the doors, I thought I saw something with a little light between the cracks. These doors closing wasn't a stroke of bad luck, it was a miracle. It showed me something I could have easily missed. A message carved in the container's walls. With what? I don't know. I also didn't know if this message remained because the owner of the ship didn't think it worth the effort to erase, or they simply never noticed it, but I noticed it. Don't trust the devil. They lie. To most, this would come off as ravings at madman. Not to me. I knew exactly what this message meant, and I knew who had left it. I chuckled myself, but I felt like tearing up. It wasn't just the ship. She'd been in this very container, and she'd left me a message. It was an important message of that, to be sure. I don't know how, but it was really important. I couldn't believe what a stroke like those. Interesting, is the Her heiress. Honestly, I figured that actually visiting the site like this would be a waste of time. Even if I was right about everything, the idea that there would be any trace left, well, it was an ideal at best, but apparently luck was on my side. Ha, I wish. No, I wasn't lucky. Karma was just giving me a little advanced favor. I needed to keep the scales balanced for what was about to happen next. This discovery should have had me invigorated. Instead, for whatever reason, I just felt exhausted. I didn't feel right. Sure, I've been working myself to the bone lately, but I shouldn't be this tired. Still a day out. Why was I so sleepy? Uh-oh. My instincts were flying up, giving me the equivalent red alert. This is bad, really bad, but what could I do? As soon as I thought, my feet began to wobble. Whoa. Alright, I made my way to the floor on my own terms. Aware that if I wasn't doing this, I'd be falling on the floor anyways. I all slipped away. The boat that contained the message consciousness. All I could feel was a slow, calm rocking the boat, back and forth. What? What happened? My head was ringing like I had just the worst hangover. The pain was indescribable. This combined with the grogginess that left me temporarily clueless toward anything and everything. I shook my head, trying to bring myself to focus. So I wasn't on my bed. The first thought that entered my head. Why wasn't I on my bed? What did I do last night? I don't remember. Last thing I remember was in a container. That can't be right. No, investigating the Manjet, and then fell asleep. What? If I was remembering right, that was bad. Not sure I was... No, sure I was mistaken. People don't just lose consciousness in the middle of a dangerous situation. In fact, those are times very specifically people are not likely to lose consciousness. I hadn't done anything that would be corresponding with losing consciousness. I didn't have any drugs being pumped in the container, nor a grenade of some sort. At that moment I laid eyes upon that message, I fell to my knees defenseless. It was like this boat was really cursed. Okay, let's not get ridiculous here. Curses don't exist. I mean, if they did, a ghost ship like this would 100% be the place they reside. But it doesn't matter because they don't exist. I was a logical person. I knew better than to believe in the supernatural. Ghosts and ghouls just leave scapegoats people created in times of high stress. Correction, weak people created in times of stress, and that wasn't weak. There was no curse, this wasn't a ghost ship. I would be fine. Enough wallowing in the dark into the container. I probably just had a moment of a heat stroke. In all likelihood, I'd just been out for a couple minutes. Time to resume my search. I reached around for the container walls. Before long, I felt the doors. Some open, shielded my eyes, expecting to be blind by the sun. How good was I? I looked up and my heart sank. I could see outside, but not because of the sun. All I could see was the same moonlit ship I had seen explored minutes before. Alright, this wasn't the time to panic. Didn't look or feel good, but it was no time to panic. Panic would make things worse, so it looks like the heat stroke explanation was out. Or maybe not. Maybe it can put you to sleep for hours. I wasn't a heat stroke expert, but the point is I'd been asleep for longer than I expected, but I was fine. As I took a step out of the container, I nearly fell over. I felt as though the rock in the ship had only gotten worse. Easy there. Again, look at the sky. Finally, stars, clouds, and a bright moon illuminating. It wasn't quite a full moon, but looked close enough to one you could mistake it. It was honestly quite beautiful. That is, had it not been for every other detail where I was at point of time. For that point where I was at in that point of time. At the moment, I could only acknowledge beauty on a logical level and able to take it in on an emotional one. So what now? Not really a question. I had found all the confidential information I needed and a good hint. Time to cut my losses and run. I began to walk to the edge of the ship by the dock. Whoa, easy there. I didn't remember things rocking this much. The waves must have gotten worse. That was my theory before I reached the side of the boat. However, as I approached, I saw something in the distance. Land. Panthea. But if that's in the distance, then that means my walk turns a run. As quickly as I could, I made my way to the side. There I looked down. We were at sea. The man jet was at sea, and I was on board. Immediately I started imagining if I could swim. Well, my astro wasn't too far. People have swum tens of miles, I could get back to shore, right? But it was in the dead of night, and the water was almost certainly freezing cold. And who knew what creatures were in the water? And what if the man jet decided to make its way back to shore and just plowed right over me? And I'd never been a great swimmer either. No, swimming back was just as dangerous as staying aboard. Alright, so right now might be a more appropriate time to panic. No, panic was the worst thing I could do at a time like this. Let's try to think logically what to do next. Try to analyze whether or not I was in real danger. That was a smart thing to do, yes? Which is why it wasn't what my body did. My body immediately began pacing like a nervous mess. My legs refused to stay still. My hands shook for no apparent reason. My ears began playing tricks on me, but my eyes, they started really looking at the ship. This wasn't a normal cargo ship, was it? Look at the ground. That was dried blood. Couldn't be sure about that. I was viewing things on the light of the moon, and more importantly, the lens of a panic person. Obviously, things would look worse than they really were. Still, the man jet was not a friendly environment. The floor was rusted metal. Across the ship, there were these accursed containers, stacked as high as the eye could see. They made this top floor like a maze, without a clear path through it. This was the place where people got murdered. This was the fodder for cheesy horror movies. Pull it together, pull it together. I was honestly a bit disappointed in myself. I always thought I had pretty good nerves under a lot of pressure, but right now I was unraveling at the seams. I guess this is a whole other level of fear, one I'd never been exposed to. Or would be more accurately described as another type. It was about at this point, too, once again, I thought I heard the faintest screams. Okay, let's just wait a second. I thought at first my ears were playing tricks on me, but then I definitely heard someone screaming out in pain. I couldn't quite tell from where, but it was an actual scream, right? Right? Damn it. Huh, fucking ghost ship bullshit, damn it. This ship wasn't haunted, ghosts don't exist, and if they did, if all they did was make faint screaming sounds, are pretty shitty ghosts. Nothing to be worried about. Pull yourself together, seriously. Why did I keep jumping to supernatural explain things? I probably was actually hearing screams, nothing to worry about, just meant a murderer on board. Wait a sec, that's worse, isn't it? Yeah, if I actually was hearing screams, that would be very bad, considering the rumors about it, the fact that it was currently at sea. If I was hearing screams with no way to get off it... You know, people were always skeptical of ghosts, but really, it's a plausible enough idea, right? This is a place with a lot of tragedy, surely it could be ghosts. Stupid. It wasn't ghosts, it wasn't real. This is my ears playing tricks on me. Honestly, a ghost may actually be a better thing than it being a real scream, because if it is real, that means there's a murderer and someone's dying, and there's no way to escape from whoever the murderer is. Alright, I need to shape up and think about some next steps, and holy crap, my throat is parched. One moment, please. Dang, this story is really getting the meat of things already. Now, since I took a break to take a drink anyways, I will say, part of me has wondered if what I bet on does actually affect the outcome of the story, but... Our narrator, Ez, directly says that this story is something that already happened. So theoretically, there shouldn't be alternate story paths in terms of alternate outcomes like during Zodiac Trial, but rather, this is one story from 7 different people's perspectives, or at least that's what I think it is. I thought they were a bit more disconnected, but no, after the first 2, these next 2 here have proven that this is all getting connected, especially if the person who was murdered here really was Eris, and the other one is from earlier in the timeline. Because remember, she was getting caught up in some dangerous stuff, and we know who, quote-unquote, the devil is. So what could I do in a situation like this? What did I have in me? My phone, yes, my phone. How could I forget such a simple thing in this modern era? You're never truly stranded from the world. Now, there's a convenient escape hatch in your pocket 24/7. I allowed a sigh of release. Oh, thank God. For a minute there, I thought I was really in a bad situation. Instead, I was a few buttons from safety. Thinking about who would actually bail me out, especially this time of night, that did give me a moment's cause. This is gonna be one hell of a sell. Whatever, I'll cross that path when I get there. First, open the phone. What do you mean no service? What do you mean no service? You're fucking with me. You're actually messing with me right now. What sort of city plan did I have? No way in hell this is a coincidence. Something's blocking the signal. Hopefully something supernatural. Alright, damn it. At least I had a phone. Anything else on me? Any weapons? No, great. Darn, if only this was the, Watch Dogs universe where phones are basically magic. Might as well wander around the hull, see what I could see. Tried to find what might be a main console or cockpit. I didn't know boat lingo. I was kind of wandering aimlessly, but I stopped. Dunk dunk. I continued to wander some more. With the boat's geometry, the thing I'd be looking for would most likely be in the middle, left or right. Easier than the front or back. Hard to tell which was. Again, I froze and dunk dunk. Okay, seriously, what the hell was that? Either I'm losing my mind or I was hearing footsteps. That was bad enough, but the fact they were stopping when I stopped, that means I was being stalked. I looked around, but to no avail. I tried running around a container. I did 2 circles before felt like too big of an idiot to continue. Hey, who's there? No response. Of course not. I just want to talk. Please, come out. Really? Consider saying I didn't have a weapon or anything. On the other hand, given my situation, should I be advertising the fact I was defenseless? Some part of me thought not. You're freaking me out, person. The wilts in my voice made it clear enough without me stating that aloud. Alright, fine. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe I was imagining footsteps. Maybe I was imagining screams. Maybe I was imagining this whole thing and I was actually safely dreaming back home. If only. If only my stalker decided to make themselves known. Good for them. In the meantime, I'd continue my search. I continued to walk until I thought I spotted something on the floor. Only the moon is my light, I nearly missed it. How could I miss such a big puddle? Puddle of what? Pale blue light made the color hard to see. I took out my phone and put on flashlight mode. After a moment, I wish I hadn't. That was blood. Okay, this is officially bad news. I was always above my pay grade, but this was the last straw. Not old blood. Oh, no, that would have been too kind. This is fresh, wet blood, not yet mopped. Blood from somebody who'd been bleeding on the floor recently. Very cool. In a sense, it was comforting. Ghosts didn't bleed, probably, and if they did, they'd bleed ghost blood. What if this was ghost blood? I haven't touched it. Maybe it's translucent or something. I wish my brain was joking when it thought that. The fact that I was sincerely entertaining such notion was so pitifully sad. I felt like laughing. I had to keep moving. I couldn't think about it for long. Just, block out the blood. Not a relevant detail. After a bit more wandering, I found something actually promising. It was a double doorway to a room above the deck. A brief glance, though, the window revealed the room was actually housed stairs. Stairs that led further inside the beast of a ship. Whatever structure lay inside this thing. There's something, right? Probably more worth checking out, or maybe not. I'd go back to the container I slept in, go back to sleep. Maybe by the time I woke up, it'd be daytime, and the boat would be parked, and I could just go about my business. Some part of me doubted things would go that smoothly, but even if it wouldn't go smoothly, that didn't mean I should go deeper in the super sketchy situation, right? All the tenets of common logic said nothing good would come of opening these doors. Hold on, what if getting stranded on this thing wasn't a bad thing? What if it was an opportunity? I said I came looking for the truth. So then, shouldn't this be a great chance? If I wanted the truth, it'll probably lay below deck, so why not open the doors? For reasons just outline brain, because it's dangerous brain, stop reaching for door handled brain, too late. Once I sold myself on the pursuing truth angle of this, I couldn't help it. The doors opened without resistance, and like that, I made my way down the stairs, further into the madness. Whoopee. The atmosphere was abysmal. Below I found hallways of metal. It was lit with cold lighting, emanating an oppressive white light, the type you might find in the worst type of doctor's office. These lights were on, big surprise. The plain metal walls, metal floor, metal ceiling, it was all reinforced, feeling that this was a giant sarcophagus I was entering. And the slow swaying of the boat, sheesh, I was gonna be nauseous. Keep moving forwards, that was the, mantra. Surely before long I'd find something of note. Early on, I was encountered with a choice, left or right. Without much to go on, I decided to turn right. I passed by several doors, but they were all shut and looked unimportant. Just by moving straight, I soon found a door that was hanging open. Probably not been closed properly, and then opened on its own due to the swaying of the ship. Might as well pop a look in there. Okay, bad choice, wrong choice. Immediately, I began repressing the urge to vomit. I mean, holy shit. What was I looking at? A dead body was one thing, but this was, I don't even know what to call it. A sick joke? Is this some kind of twisted joke? An abomination? Overkill, most certainly. Well, it was in the little sense a dead girl. She didn't seem too old by looks of things. Hard to tell, though, when her entire face was caved in. And I don't just mean beaten up. I mean you couldn't even tell what color eyes or how long her nose was. It took me a moment to work out hair color. The entire front of her face was just a little more than exposed flesh. But as I could tell, some dark, twisted part of me could tell that it wasn't because she was flayed or anything. That flesh came from an earnest beating. Holy shit, the more I looked, the more details I noticed, the more disturbed I became. She wore a lot of denim, as well as a camo jacket, but her jeans were tear after tear. Not natural ones, tears covered in blood. As though somebody had taken a knife and stabbed it up and down both legs. What kind of sadistic murder ritual could this possibly be? The worst detail was one I hadn't noticed. I looked closer. What happened to the fingers on her hands? It seemed as though under each fingernail there was blood, a deep bleeding. as though somebody taken a drill between her nail and finger and slowly painfully twisted it, making incisions. I felt my skin curl. Despite everything, that was what really struck me. That was what was really messing me up. I guess I was just antsy about fingernails, and it also made it clear this wasn't a murder, this was torture. But wait, with all this, surely there should be more blood around, right? Yeah, that was weird. There was blood in the room, but not nearly enough. I mean, considering everything. Not like it was some weirdo who wanted blood or whatever. Not like I was some weirdo who wanted blood or whatever. I looked at my feet, and there I noticed flecks of blood in the direction of the body. I turned around where I'd come from as my suspicions were confirmed. More tracks led there, which means I could also find where the body had come from. I began following the lead. Moments later, I found another scream. In time, there was no mistaking it. This wasn't my imagination. This was the sound of somebody on this floor. The sound came from the direction of the trail. Holy shit, was something like that just happened is still happening? My pursuit of the trail sped up. I didn't want to waste any more time than necessary. And eventually I found another door. One looked far less rusted and more official than most. This is the place. Should I really be doing this? My mind flashed back to the body I had just seen. I needed to see for myself what was going on. As slowly and silently as I could, I opened the door. One creak and I might be dead. Luckily, inside the room there was darkness, at least where I was. I was able to step in and remain hidden. To my benefit, there were some boxes of who knows what nearby. Corners were engulfed in darkness. On the other hand, the center of the room was lit up by a single dangling light. It was clearly set up for dramatic effect, and it worked. The center of the room was covered in plastic wrap, and that plastic wrap was covered in blood. Too much blood, so much blood. Shit, that's a lot of blood. In the light, I saw two people. One was a man in his early 50s, if I had to guess. He actually looked pretty good. Silver hair fit him well, so it's not Marduk. Maybe I only said that because his face was the only part of him undamaged. Most notably, his arms were tied behind his back, but not just tied with a rope. He was also tied with some sort of wire, a wire with multiple exposed sections. It was attached to a machine with knobs and lights. I had to imagine it was set up to electrocute this guy, but why resort to that? After all, he was bleeding from the knees and now one shoulder. They were gunshots. Using context clues, a pistol had probably been fired from him at point blank multiple times. But by who? Well, with the intimidating figure in black, of course. I didn't call him a man, even though that's probably what he was for a reason. He had an aura not of a man, but of a demon. From head to toe, he was clothed in black. Boots, leather pants, jackets, gloves. Most frighteningly was the mask, and also some sort of ski mask. It was a sleek mask made with black glass. Ah. This could very well have been the true Thane. It was a mask that inspired fear. It was the mask of Thane. Yeah, exactly. I knew exactly who this person was. This person was a nightmare standing, even without the pistol he had in his hand, who would be incredibly intimidating. His mere posture, it oozed carefully calculated composure mixed with colossal confidence, and then with modulated voice emanating from a speaker on his mask, he spoke. In a dark, twisted, mechanical voice that made my heart plummet. I know there's more. The fact that you're trying to pretend that's not the case, it makes me sad. He continued to pace. How long have they been at this? What even was this? Look, I'm not going to bullshit you. We both know how this works. We both know you're not getting out of this alive, but that doesn't mean you don't have a choice. Keep playing brave, you'll end up like the girl. You saw her expression. That was a nasty way to go. She was alive for most of it, and you know, I could have made it much worse. The only reason I did make it worse, because at least she gave me something useful, even if it wasn't the full course. That's where you come in. Give me the full course. Thane didn't say in a pushy or demeaning or even threatening way. He just stated it plainly, and what followed was painful pause. One that literally made my stomach cramp up. Why? Why are you so insistent on making things worse for yourself? I mean, the girl I got, but you've been with us for long enough. I would have thought you'd have known us better. Better to take the wrong side like this, at any rate. I mean, look at this. Seeing what you've seen, do you really think the opposition stands a chance? If your bastardly scheme to take from me actually had a chance of working, well, I could at least understand it. It's on a logical level, but it's very obvious who's going to come out on top. So what's with the useless charade of honor? You abandoned it all when you turned traitor. How was the man reacting to all this? I felt his facial reaction to be a big hint, so I tried to lean further in the boxes than I hid behind. I'm not a very good torturer, am I? Maybe it's because I'm not used to talking this much. I like to be the silent type. Maybe I'm not good at the negotiation part of this. At the very least, I know I'm good at the torture part of this. Thane was clearly in the process of something. However, I never got a chance to learn what that something was, because as I was leaning, the ship encountered a particularly large wave. It rocked and caught me off balance. I ended up stumbling out of my hiding spot into the light. Thane's helmet turned, and soon after he was facing me head-on. For a solitary magic moment, nothing happened. Two of us just stared at each other. Then I stared at him. His mask was pointed in my direction. Neither of us particularly wanted to break this stalemate. The lady man certainly didn't want to say anything. If I had it my way, just sort of, I don't know, stay like this. No end in sight, just kind of locked in a moment where nothing was happening. Fortunately, this magic moment didn't last forever. It lasted for about 2.5 seconds. Afterward, without even moving his head, he raised an arm that was holding up his pistol. The gun was squared firmly at the shivering man's head. I saw the guy's mouth open, about to shout some sort of plea or failing that, perhaps a spiteful epithet. Whatever he meant to say, he never got the chance. Second later, the pistol recoiled and I heard splattering. Next second, I saw a burst of blood in the air from the victim's forehead. The man stayed on his knees as he Blood fell from the air to the floor, and then a good 3 seconds later, the man slowly collapsed. I was so shocked by this display of life's fragility, I hadn't focused on Thane's actions during the critical seconds. He was reloading and moving his arm in a new direction. Well, shit. Immediately, I pushed off on my right foot and began to lean left. I didn't have time to get a proper running start. I recognized it was more important to start moving instantly. The instinct of mine was proven 100% correct, because the bullet Thane sent in my direction ended up missing me by, damn, inches? I couldn't say for sure. Sure as hell felt like inches. I could feel the breeze of it, or at least it felt like I could. It was indisputably the closest I've ever come to death. An experience like that is usually traumatizing. It forced me to really stop, take a minute, and re-examine what I was doing. And for sure, the trauma was almost certain to come later. But luckily, there was something in my brain that acted as a big blocker for all those tragic impulses. A giant, newly erected sign of "Get the hell out of there" was in bright lights. That brief hop to the left quickly transformed to a full-on sprint. In seconds, I was moving faster than ever I had in my life. I felt like I was running at a world record pace. Again, hard to tell how much that was just my imagination. Regardless, fear of death tend to put some real spring in your step, it seems. Time also seemed to keep pace as the slow-motion speed as it ever did since Thane laid eyes on me. I was about to think crystal clearly about every small movement I was making, which was good, seeing as how I was coming to a choice earlier than I thought. Leaving this torture room, where to go? Left, right, straight is an immediate out. Looking further down, it took only a bit until the next place turned to another corridor. Thane would likely get to this door in time to have a clear shot of my back, so then, do I go left or right? That was the way I came from, I remember that much. My gut wanted to try and get back to the top, but hold on a second, how much did that really help? It's not like I had an escape plan up there. More importantly, this instinct was so natural, it's probably obvious. If my biggest priority was to put distance between myself and Thane, I'd be choosing options that would lose him easily. He couldn't know too much, but he'd probably expect me to retreat back up the stairs, so the left had to be the answer. These thoughts passed through my brain in the course of a second. And the next, I jumped right off my foot again, curving left. I got about 5 steps before I realized my mistake. Thane would think I ran the right, huh? Now that if he could hear me obviously running left, dumbass. The sprinting pace I was moving, in an empty ship like that, it's very obvious to hear my movements. I was sort of footstep a second ago, a lot closer than Thane should have been. Clearly he'd begun sprinting after me as I turned around. I didn't have time to transition to a slower, stealthier pace. At this point, I already committed to go in the direction I had no idea about. Well, damn. Time might have felt like I was moving slowly, but that was an illusion. Clearly, I wasn't actually thinking straight. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Further down the rabbit hole we go. I kept running down this left corner, and soon enough I was presented with another juncture. Left right, this one was easier. Think about the structure. Going left again to move towards the direction of the torture room. Possible to lead to another entrance to that room. So to the right this time. Not long over, there was another. Left, straight, right. I could hear the Thane would soon come last juncture I reached, which gave him a straight shot. Had to keep running. So left once more. At the next juncture, I went right again, then right. This place was a damn maze. Who built ships like this? Or was that on purpose? True, I passed down the occasional map of the floor. Plenty of closed doors, too. Sometimes there were cargo boxes left sitting in the hallways. With Thane on my ass, I couldn't pause a single moment to take in things like this. Instead, my brain jumped to a odd thought. Why did Thane shoot the bloody man first? I like to think I'd have a dodge either way. However, it wasn't as though in my dazed state if he shot me first, he would have killed me, so why attack that guy first? Think about it logically. Either way, it looked like he gave up on whatever he was doing at that point. He just wanted to kill us both. So why kill him first? The only thing that made sense is he knew I couldn't escape. There was only a matter of time before he caught me, so he might as well finish his current job first. Bloody beaten barely conscious man was more of a threat than me. Was that right? No shit, I was giving too much credit. He was a demon, sure, but he's still a man, probably. He might have been caught off guard and just didn't think things through. It was this process that struck me as I made a wrong turn. I confronted the straight hallway and a gate right in the middle of it. A gate with a lock. Well, wait, the gate was unlocked. Jackpot, maybe? I ran forward, struggled with the gate opening. Open, damn it, open. After a bit of struggle, though, from the other side, I pushed down the lock. Right as I was securing it, Thane turned the corner. Well, damn. Behind me were a couple more cargo boxes. I dove for cover instantly, and by dove, I mean literally, both feet leaving the ground. I created this odd escape approach for my survival. Had I simply ran for the cargo boxes, the shot fired at me almost certainly would have landed. I then slid behind the boxes and instantly turtled up. That was just instinct. I didn't want any part of me exposed. In this fetal state, I had heard 3 more shots. 2 flew overhead, 1 impacted the boxes with a dull thud. I could feel 1 move closer from the shot, now touching me, but didn't go through. Whatever was in that box held the bullet firm. After the third, the bullets temporarily paused. I had this opportunity to reorient myself from a fetal position to a crouching one. Look at my surroundings. On the other side of the hallway, I saw a big metal door with a wheel on it, leading to another room. Looking up, I saw an open to a vent. Cool, I guess. No good place to go from here. I heard 2 gunshots impact the metal. Sounds like they were hitting the gate. Was he trying to shoot off the lock? Well, that's totally what he was trying to do. Luckily, I didn't hear anything fall to the floor. It's not like a pistol had infinite bullets, right? I doubt he wanted to take pot shots all day. Cargo boxes weren't fall from the lock either. The guy assumed I was caught helpless, but he couldn't be reckless either. For all he knew, I had a gun on me. Well, at this point, he might have ruled that possibility out, but something like a knife, he had to factor that in. So if he approached the lock and tried to get it off, the chance that I could try rushing to stab him through the gate was a real fear. It seemed like a certain dead end for me actually held a glimmer of potential. How would the demon respond now? The ball was in his court. I had a few seconds of nothing breathing. Then, like a miracle, I heard the sound of footsteps retreating. No way, it couldn't be. As I heard them in the corner, I risked a very brief look behind the boxes to try to prepare for us. Pull back at the slightest sign. I was right. Thane had left. Seriously? I had just given up? That didn't seem likely. Maybe he was going to do something drastic. Maybe I should use this opportunity to run the opposite way. No, that was stupid. This could easily be a trap. The moment I tried fleeing from this dead end, he'd shoot me from beyond the bend. More importantly, just because he locked the gate didn't mean I could unlock it. Ironically, I'd actually trapped myself in this shitty situation, so what now? I'd gotten that far in my thoughts before I saw Thane walking back. Immediately, I pulled back, once again hiding behind the crates. I expected a bullet to whiz by, but no, I retreated successfully. That was probably because I saw Thane holding something in his hand. I only got a glimpse and instantly retreated. What he grabbed, that was quickly answered by the sound of pouring, a hose. And I saw from my vantage point a black liquid slowly going on the floor. Oh, fuck off. No damn way. Did he really have a hose of gasoline lying somewhere? What the fuck was up with the man jet? No time for complaining about the outrageous circumstance. Wasn't now. Now was the time to panic. It was clear. Thane was in no rush. He was going to be very patiently wait for the right opportunity. Then he'd exterminate me. I was a trapped rat, and he was going to slowly corner me until I suffocated. I could picture that black void of a helmet now, expressionlessly standing there holding a pipe. Unless this takes place further in the fake Thane storyline, it seems that guy might have actually been doing the city a favor by getting rid of Thane and replacing him for us. Holding a pipe, watching the gasoline slowly spill closer and closer, waiting joylessly until it was time to light up. Focus. How can I get out of this one? As far as I saw it, I had two options. The first was the door. A couple problems with that. For one, I guess it was a dead end. It'd be a room with no other exit, and I'd just be trading one place for a last stand for another. For another was almost certainly the move Thane expected. He would hold the hose with one hand and a pistol with another. I was all the way on the other side of a hallway. I didn't like those odds. Third problem, I had no idea whether or not it was locked. From my angle, I couldn't tell whether or not I had a lock on it. But if the door behind a gate had a lock on, it's plausible it would also have one. If I rushed over there and couldn't open it, it would be 100% game over. So then time for a risk. The odds of the other plan working were a lot lower, but there's a way higher yield if I could pull it off. Which option had better risk-reward was easy. I needed heavier objects. Well, what were in these boxes? Hesitantly, I tried to pry off the lid, and the pile I was hiding behind. It was easier than I thought. Blindly, I scourged for something. I felt something hard, so I grabbed it and pulled behind cover. A rock? Weirdly shaped colored rock, but a rock nonetheless. What possible circumstances could have led to a box of weird rocks being placed haphazardly in a pile below deck of a ship like this? Whatever, no time for hypotheticals. I only played a bit of baseball back in middle school, but it was decently fit, and I was desperate, so here goes nothing. Instantly, I threw the rock with all my might at the vent to the nearby ceiling. Before I could even see the results, I popped up, began to jump off the pile of boxes hid behind. Please, yes. Turns out the vent covering was real old and real shitty. For whatever reason, I was able to knock it loose with that rock. And my leap from these boxes, I grabbed a hold of the opening. Not wasting a second, I pushed up. Pow. A bullet was fired. It wasn't until I completely pulled myself up in the narrow vent I realized the gunshot was a complete miss. My pants had a tear. The front of my leg was very faintly beginning to bleed. Holy shit, a bullet literally skimmed me. Dang, he got grazed. How was I still alive? I was still alive. Right now I was in a cramped vent away from Thane. I was alive. Two shots whizzed through the bottom of the vent, both narrowly missing the position I had scooted towards. Yeah, it might be a little early to celebrate. With more energy than I had before, I began to scoot for my life. Oh, it's over. On that? Damn, the cliffhangers. I mean, yeah, okay, I did sort of make the cliffhanger myself. I'm allowed to get mad at myself, and I do so frequently. Back of the scene, that's a real nail-biter. For the back half there, I really thought the stack of cards would end at 1. Imagine. And for the first half, well, it was real spooky. Type of shit you'd see in a horror movie. Like a supernatural haunting might stop at any moment. Say, do you believe in spirits? Depends the day of the week. What is that time of streaming? Thursday, Friday? You do. That's funny, I wouldn't have thought that of you. I appreciate your honesty, though. Believing ghosts, good to know, good to keep in mind. At the very least, no spirits have shown up in the story yet, that we know of. Wow, crash. That was my imitation of thunder, if you couldn't tell. You like it? Don't answer, I already know you did. But yeah, for all you know, there's not even anybody inside of Thane's mask. Part of me does wonder if these decisions I'm making actually do impact the story to any extent, in which case maybe I should have suggested a good ending in the end. But then again, if I win no matter what, it ceases to be a gambling game, doesn't it? No, there has to be a correct answer. In that case, let's hope my bet for the ending is wrong then, shall we? I genuinely would enjoy that. The whole thing could be animated. And you know what they say, gambling is a game where you could have fun whether you win or lose, right? The whole thing could be animated like Dead Souls or some shit. You don't know. Anyways, this is just me talking, but so far I'm digging this card stack. I just got one problem. It's taking place on a boat. I'm not a boat fan. Hope these scenes don't stay on the boat for very long. They wouldn't, right? That'd get too boring. What do you think? Let's say, oh, 2 scenes. Think 2 more scenes will still be on the boat? I don't think Mercury's gonna last 2 more scenes. Probably. Really? You really think so, huh? Boy, I hope not. Okay, then why don't we actually have a bet on that? Yeah, no, I didn't think of this before. This is a great topic to bet on. Can't believe I didn't think of it. How much are you gonna bet? Again, not feeling especially confident on this one, so let's not go too heavy in. Okie dokie, now here's some stakes. Now I can really cheer for Mercury to stay on the boat, which seems a bit counterproductive, but whatever. Yeah, gambling makes this way more fun. Alright, let's keep going. Venus Throw. So there I was, crawling an event on a ghost ship. In the middle of the night, the masked assassin below me. I take the time to retrace the steps that led me to this situation if it weren't for the fact I'm still very much in imminent danger. It's difficult to crawl through a vent with any sense of urgency, but I manage. Forwards. And I must say, the fact is said I don't think Mercury's gonna last 2 more stacks is actually very interesting. Maybe my choices do impact the outcome of this story in some way. But like I said, in order for it to be proper gambling, there needs to be an ability for me to actually lose, so, Forwards. It was tight and it was cramped, it was uncomfortable, but as far as I was concerned, there was a tunnel to safety, so I took it. Pow. Extremely loudly, another bullet fired through into the vent. I wasn't able to estimate exactly how close the bullet had come to impacting me. However, from the sounds of it, I wasn't far behind. Then again, I was unclear on how accurate the measure was. But we'll find out. If Mercury doesn't even last 2 more stacks, then that would technically have us lose the bet, since the story ended before 2 more stacks, and the bet was explicitly 2 more stacks, whether or not we were still on the boat in 2 stacks. So if it doesn't even reach 2 stacks, I still lose. Gotta be aware of certain technicalities like that when making bets. Be very... So once again, be sure to take exact wordings. Then again, it's unclear how accurate a metric that was. The sound of the gunshot echoed all the way through this vent extremely loudly. Whatever, let's just say the gunshots were right on my ass. Probably a safer assumption to make. Keep scooting. To what end, I wasn't sure. Didn't have time to consider those thoughts. Had to just keep moving forwards, towards direction, the best I could. Pow. Another gunshot. Well, damn it. Thane could run faster than I could crawl, and thanks to the noise I was making, it was clear where I was at any given time. What initially seemed to be a saving grace was looking less and less like a viable option of escape. If things stay the course, I'll have a bullet in me in no time flat, and once that happens, I'm dead. Think. There's very few situations in life that couldn't be solved through being clever enough, and this wasn't one of them. Odds were to perhaps comical levels stacked against me. 99 times out of 10, I'd die on this boat, but if there's even one thing I hated, it was treating something within your grasp as impossible. I had outs. The question was if I'd find them or not. So, the task at hand. What was the core problem? Thane was faster than me. He knew where I was. He wanted to shoot me with his gun. Those 3 things spelled bad news pretty clearly. To survive, I needed to topple at least one of those tenants. Given the current situation, convincing Thane not to shoot with a gun, especially from this vent, seemed unlikely. I also didn't know any pro-vent moving strats, so that ruled that option. What I was left then was stopping Thane from knowing where I was. He only knew where I was because I was making a lot of noise, so time to stop that. Well, I didn't have great hopes of the plan I just concocted, but it was the best I could come with a few seconds of the last shot. As quickly as I could without interrupting my momentum, I took off one of my shoes, then with a ton of force, I tossed it ahead. Bounced along the vent walls, making a ton of noise. For my part, I stopped in my tracks. In fact, I began to move very slowly, very silently, move forward. The shoe only bounced and made noise for a few seconds before it stopped. Then silence. Thane had no idea where I was at this point. If I stayed silent, it could stay that way. Like I realized, he had a limited number of bullets on him. If he wanted to go crazy, he'd be shooting up the whole vent, searching for me. If he wanted to just go crazy, shooting up the whole vent, searching for me, that'd be a hard task. So was I safe? Pow. I got my hands on the form of bullet breaking through the vent, except it was far, far down. There was a bunch of distance between myself and the gunshot. How badly had Thane judged my positioning? Quite severely, it seemed. Still, that seemed to be too far to be a reasonable shot. Pow. Another bullet fired through the vent, a second or two later, just a bit closer. I was getting really confused now. What was Thane's play here? Pow. When another shot was fired, an equal amount of time between the shot and last time, the amount of space closer I got the drift. Oh, he didn't think I made it that far. He was just defining an outer bounds, the furthest I could possibly be. Pow. Now he'd slowly, methodically walk forwards, firing every other second until he came to where I hid. I'd be struck, even if I just glanced, I'd make a noise. Then I'd be screwed. The vent isn't big enough to try and dodge the bullets. What do? My instinct was to turn around and start running in that direction, but there's a bunch of problems with that idea. One, turning around fully in this event would likely pose a larger problem than expected. More importantly, running the other direction would put me in the same position. Ow. Except this time it would be even worse. See, going forwards, it wasn't far until a turn in the vent. That turn represented as far as I were. I turned past a wall, a place where Thane couldn't directly follow. I don't know how well Thane knew the architecture of the ship, but regardless, keeping up with me once the vent was going across walls would be incredibly difficult. On the other hand, behind me was a straight shot for a long time, enough for Thane to catch up and put a bullet through my chest. What other option did I have? The bullets came with very little time apart. Very little distance apart. He definitely hit me at this rate. Definitively, pow. Oh, shoot, this is terrifying. I could feel the sweat on my forehead start to pile up. I need to make sure it didn't hit the bottom of the vent and give me away. What was truly frightening is how robotic this process was, how robotic Thane was. I kept calling him a demon, but a cyborg comparison felt more apt. He was precise and he was deadly. He's basically a Terminator. Same time between each shot. Or one of the Snatchers, if you are familiar with that old game. Same distance between each shot, like he was on a program. Wait a second, pow. That was it. This mechanical nature, it wasn't thoroughness, it was weakness. It made him painfully predictable. I could deal with predictable, pow. Timing on this was going to be incredibly tight, like insanely tight, ordinarily too tight to count on. My senses were heightened, and it was do or die. The only way out was through, literally, pow. So then measure the time, measure the distance. This was all happening too quick to measure timing this thing out with actual numbers. I just had to feel it in my gut, have a feel for it, pow. That last bullet was close, really close. Not much time was left for it, it was time to go. Okay, running position. Scooch a little forwards, next bullet. Right as I heard the bullet, I pushed forwards. As the bullet was breaking through the vent, I was moving towards it. And when I hit the top of the vent, my head was already under it. My feet were pushing forwards as fast as it could, practically running sideways, pushed along the vent with my arms and legs. Forwards, 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 pow. Clearly, I had caught Thane unawares. It took him a second to react to the sudden noise, and he's a bit too slow on the draw. Faster, faster, keep running. Came up on my shoe and scooped it up with one of my hands and kept going. Honestly, my instincts were just abandoned and solely focused on moving forwards, but I couldn't completely abandon the bigger picture. Being without a shoe would likely cost me greater along the line, and I plan on making it further along the line. Up ahead, the vent turned left. Pow. Pow, pow. Right behind me, Thane was still letting off a volley of shots, but none of them were connecting. I stayed with the vent, moving left while maintaining as much of my momentum as I could manage. In theory, this moved me away from where Thane could reach, but I didn't feel like letting up. I kept moving and moving, no idea where I was in relation to anything. The only thing I could tell was there were no more gunshots being fired. A bit further ahead, the vent turned to the right. Without much choice, I continued. Faster, faster. Was that another loose grating? That thought crossed my mind as I ran on top of it. Probably would have been better to acknowledge that sooner. Before I even knew what was happening, I felt my center of mass begin to fall. Whoops, with a loud clattering, the grate I ran over fell to the ground, and right above it, thud. So did I. So too did I. Well, this wasn't good. Instantly looked around to ascertain my surroundings. I was in a small, empty room. Cool, didn't need any other details. Instantly, I rushed over and put my body weight directly against the door. I did this primarily for two reasons. First of all, looking at the door's window, it would be difficult to see me looking in from this angle. I guess if you specifically tried looking directly behind the door, you could probably see part of my body, but if it got that far, I was already screwed. Secondly, if Thane did hear that and I was running towards this door, it would help me fend him off. I could try and keep the door closed by pushing it. Far from an elegant or permanent solution, but I might buy myself some more time. That's why I pressed directly against the door. Then waited. My heart felt like it was beating out my chest. Why this approach instead of just running straight out? Well, the way I saw it, there were three distances Thane could be from where my fall impacted. They could be very close to the fall. In that case, running out would likely have me running directly into Thane, which would result in a bullet in me. Bad end. He could be somewhat nearby, but not super close. In this case, if I haphazardly started running out, I wouldn't know what direction he is, so again, I risk encountering Thane. Bad end. Finally, it could be a good distance from the fall. In that case, right now, they weren't sure where I was. If I just waited, I'd be safe. So I waited for a little bit, and after a minute or two, I determined it was the third situation. I had more or less lost Thane. Excellent. This was ideal for me. I mean, as ideal as a situation could be. I still had to... Well, damn, what was my endgame? I hadn't the time to really think that far yet. While I was hiding, now should be the time. The way I saw it, there were three general strategies I could try, though they didn't necessarily overlap with one another. I could try waiting until daytime. On one hand, it was unlikely that Thane would willingly take them back to the ship while docked, where there was still a liability like me aboard. But then again, I didn't know a lot of aspects of how this operation worked. This was a fairly large ship, is clouded in secrecy. There's the possibility that Thane, whoever else owned the ship, simply didn't have the option of keeping out in the middle of the ocean indefinitely. And if that was just a case of hiding and staying alive, there's a lot more space. Still, this plan didn't feel great. Unfortunately, none of these plans feel great. Plan 2 certainly didn't feel great. That was somehow to steer the ship to the dock myself. Did I know where the steering controls of the ship were? Well, no. Did I know how to sail a ship? No. Was it likely the people aboard the ship would take kindly to me sailing it right back shore? Unlikely. That last bit was a large hurdle. It also might not be considering Plan 3. Eliminate all other threats on the ship. I used the term eliminate very broadly, but in likelihood I'd have to kill them. Though incapacitation would be ideal, regardless, this almost felt like the least likely option of the three. Thane certainly didn't look easy enough to get the jump on, and more upsettingly, I had no idea if Thane was the only threat aboard. So far, it seemed like that, but an operation like this, I could easily see there being more people involved, and I still hadn't accounted for those footsteps I was hearing on the deck. The screams were real, those were probably real as well. Not an optimistic situation, to be sure, but if I wanted my chance of survival, I needed to bank on one or more of these tactics. As far as I could tell, some combination of these three plans was my best out. Alright, that's enough hiding. Honestly, this little break was more for my own benefit than a strategic reason, but I couldn't stay here the whole time. Even if I wanted to angle for option 1, hiding in a room like this would probably backfire before too long. First, I crawled and grabbed my shoe off the ground, put it back on. Great. Then very slowly opened the door. Damn, these doors creak. I heard the hallway gingerly placing one foot in front of another. There I was in the hallway. Now what? Silence. I didn't hear anything. What on earth? Surely I should be hearing at least something at this point. Had Thane stopped looking, or was he on another part of the ship entirely? Either option felt promising. Well, the only one I was through. Had to start moving at some point. I mean, I could keep hiding, but again, probably a bad idea. Slowly, I made my way through the metal halls. At each corner, I made sure to quickly pop my head out, check if there's someone on the bend. Thane, specifically. However, I kept looking out and I didn't run into him. Lucky me, I kept slowly making my way through the iron coffin. Right now that I was no longer in immediate danger, that good old paranoia was starting to come back in gear. Thoughts, mindless thoughts, illogical thoughts started flooding in. What if Thane was right behind me? What if Thane had shut all the exits and was flooding the boat? What if I was already dead? Okay, brain, already dead? We can do better with our dumb paranoid conspiracy theories. That's right, Thane was actually Kenshiro the entire time. Where was I even trying to go? I guess making my way back up the deck of the ship above board would be ideal. I couldn't quite determine what specific logic for that thought was, but somewhere in my gut. Oh man, feeling things in my gut. What have I devolved into? Well, whatever. I sure as shit didn't know the layout of the ship, but I always had a decent sense of direction. An internal compass, if you will. Despite everything, I could feel the direction where I came from on some level of my subconscious, or at least I thought I did. I really hated relying on my subconscious, but it's where I was at in life, so I continued my silent, methodical movement. Now at least I had a sense of direction. Down halls, around corners, I slunk, fully aware that at any moment I might have to spring into action. At any moment I could be face to face with a gun-wielding maniac. Well, if that happened, fuck me, I guess, I'd play my outs. Going to be fine, I'm going to be fine. I repeated the mindless mantra to myself as I made my way through the ship. After a while, I was in familiar territory. I knew where I was on the ship. I was close to the staircase back to the deck. The excitement of realization made me want to speed up, but no. I have to keep slow and steady. Never know when you encounter danger. Yeah, for all he knows, Thane is just waiting across each bend, waiting for the sound of footsteps. Like now, for instance, I took 2 steps back immediately. I was pretty sure he didn't see me. He didn't see me, right? Held my breath. No noise. He didn't see me. Or even if he did, he wasn't moving into space. Around the corner, in front of me, the ship had a straight path, with a turn left the midway of the path. Standing firm right in the center, a turn which led me right to the stairs, was the demon Thane. I only got a glimpse, but looks like he was just standing there. He had something in his left hand, though I didn't get a good look. Pistol still in his right. That moment I saw him, my heart plummeted. I couldn't deal with this. I couldn't keep dealing with this. How'd I gotten there? What pushed me to board the manjet? I kept retracing my steps. Was any of this worth it? Yeah, it would be. I mean, if you told me exactly what I'd be getting myself into, maybe I'd have some second thoughts, but I didn't regret starting this quest in the first place. I couldn't. After all, it was JC's last request. Okay, so it's not Eris, it's JC. Which, of course, does mean... Interesting. Maybe the devil does know that those people are in control, because he himself is the quote-unquote god of the air. Interesting. That would be interesting if so. So JC's final message was not to trust the devil. I could have been a very bad friend, but at least owed her this much. Even though we didn't end in the best of places, JC was one of my oldest friends. I remember being close with her ever since I was a kid. It wasn't really a thing I had a lot of control over. My parents were friends with her parents. That sort of thing happened a lot. Still, I count myself lucky that I got to meet JC at all. She was always so bright. I mean that in more than one way. She had a bright personality and mind. In some ways, I might have been smarter than her, but even still, I often felt like I was the one trailing behind. I felt the need to try and impress her. However, even if she wasn't such a sparkling personality, things probably still would have broken the same way. Spend enough time with someone at a young age and you're bound to have an incredible connection with them one way or another. It's the reason people can have absolutely abysmal parents and still feel the need for their approval. So yeah, one way or another, JC really defined a lot of my younger life. We hung out a lot, went to the same school. At one point, I might have even had a crush on her. I don't know, I wasn't really emotionally mature enough at the time to really understand it all. If I did, it's probably a good thing I never acted on those thoughts at a time. Whatever it was, I eventually moved past it. JC and I stayed friends into high school, but from there, well, life happened. We all became different people. At one point, we got in a pretty big fight. She's probably in the right about it, but I had never accepted it at the time. She moved away, and so did I. Our lives went in separate directions. I tried reaching out to her a couple times since then, keeping someone in contact, but none of our subsequent conversations went that well. There was still a definite distance. A lot of it was my fault, but I didn't want to keep JC out of my life, especially not permanently. I mean, we were moving in different directions, but still, in the back of my head, I always viewed the rift as, I don't know, temporary, but eventually we'd get over it. Eventually we'd be close again, hanging out frequently. Who knows, maybe that would have been the case had life been played out a little differently, but we made plans and God laughs. Never taken anything for granted, yada yada. Before I knew it, I got my last message from JC, and shortly after that, she disappeared. Dropped to the face of the earth. No, she didn't drop off, she was killed. Killed, I'm fairly certain, on this very ship, and the only other person who could do anything about it was me. That's why I boarded the man jet. That's why I was staring down death. That's why I'd have to get off this place. It was really the only way to make things right. So then, I shook my head. I needed to get my head in reality, stay focused and escape. That was my purpose. Alright, let's think this through. Thane was standing in front of the stairs. He seemed to just be standing there casually. He's meddling with something, though I couldn't say what in specific. He'd been standing there a while. That's why he's so silent. Did he default to guarding that point after he lost me? Probably. So then why? What information does this give me? Well, there's 3 inferences I can make in descending order of reliability. The first was pretty much confident about. Those stairs were the only way back to the above deck. If there was multiple ways of going up there, Thane would not be putting all of his eggs in a single basket the way he has. That'd be unreasonable. Hell, Thane looked to be completely defenseless from behind. If there's another way above deck, I could have rushed behind and stabbed him or something. The fact he seemed so utterly concerned with this possibility made it pretty likely it wasn't a possibility. So it was an impossibility, so that's one way out. Second assumption, although I wasn't as sure about, but seemed to make sense. If Thane wasn't making any moves to kill me now, I probably felt confident that if things stayed there, I'd die where they were, I'd die eventually. It's possible that while I stood there, he was contacting other crewmates to come down and hunt me. That might have been what he was doing, or maybe there was some other reason why he thought I'd inevitably die, some unknown factor I wasn't thinking of for whatever reason. Given what I'd saying, Thane needed to kill me. If he seemingly had no immediate desire, I assumed the situation would rectify itself. He needed to kill me. If he seemingly had no immediate desire to do so, I'd assume he thought the situation would rectify its... Yeah, if he because he seemingly had no desire to hunt Mercury down anymore, that means the problem is going to be dealt with on its own. He doesn't have to do anything other than make sure we have no escape route. Final assumption, I was worried might have been wishful thinking, but thinking about it, let's say those first 2 assumptions hold true. That's the only way above board, and my life was on a timer. That doesn't necessarily explain why he'd be puppy guarding that one spot. Given Thane's twisted personality, I imagine he'd still be hunting me down if for no other reason than sport, unless, of course, he couldn't afford that sort of arrogance. Him standing there implied to me there was something above deck that might give me a chance of living, or at the very least, being above deck meant I wouldn't necessarily die, and if that's the case, then I have only one option available. I have to get past him somehow. I didn't know how per se, but I'd trust my own logic if I wanted to survive. Third was the assumption might have been the weakest of the 3, but also gave me the closest thing to a plan of action I have had for a while, and it gave me some much-needed hope. So then, how to get past Thane? As it stood, I had no chance whatsoever. Luckily, there was one place pretty close by that might have some stuff of use. Making sure to still move gingerly, I made my way back to the torch room. Hopefully there's something I could use. Looking at the corpse again, my stomach began to drop. Well, I was gonna be sick. This was absolute brutality, the likes I hadn't yet seen. Well, that wasn't quite true. There was one other corpse that probably had this one beat. Keep it together. I was supposed to have a good gut about these sorts of things. I moved forwards and began to check the older man's corpse. This was vaguely disrespectful, but now wasn't exactly the time for respect. If the guy was still around, I'm sure he'd think the biggest sign of respect would be evading his killer and avenging his name. I was just seeing if he could lend a hand. I thought it was a dead end, but it felt like something below his left leg. I pulled up his quite bloodily and ripped pant leg and found a thin, sharp ice pick strapped to the back of the guy's leg with leather string. It had narrowly avoided the gunshots that had entered the human it was attached to. I was surprised Thane let something like this slip through the cracks. Was this guy waiting for an opportunity to put this thing to use? Did he never end up getting that opportunity? What's your story, old man? Thane has said you brought this upon yourself. You chose the wrong side. I had a couple guesses, but none of them quite made sense of the whole situation. What on earth could this ship really be? No, those thoughts were for when I'm safe. They weren't likely to have applications here. At the very least, I've gotten a weapon. This was big. My eyes were also drawn to the strange machine that had a wire connected to it that was torturing the old man. I gave it a closer look. To be honest, I had difficulty telling what the actual function of this thing was. Probably useless, but what really stood out was this one papery tube on the side that ran from the bottom to the top. I could see that it was screwed onto the top. Out of curiosity, I tried unscrewing it. Instantly, I regretted it and began screwing it again. The moment there was a bit of give, smoke immediately began pouring out of it. Great design here, guys. Holy shit, what a load of... Hold on, how much smoke could this make exactly? The pipe was fairly large, and smoke started coming out of it pretty quick. If it could make a lot of smoke, it could act like a smoke screen, right? That'd be something I could use, except no, that probably wasn't right. I mean, what good would a smoke screen realistically do given the current setup? Thane would just see through it, put some distance between himself and the smoke screen, and start firing through it. Anything I intended to do, this wouldn't work. Thane would see right through it. So then what if I counted on that? The key to adaptability is counterplay. If a plan will fail, then make that reason a part of the plan. For some reason, make that reason part of the plan. Actually, I think I can make this work. It's a risky gambit, but certainly a risk. But risk was the name of the game at this point. I grabbed the mystery machine and left the torture room. Then very silently, I made my back to where I'd seen Thane last. As delicately, quietly as I could, made way around the corner that Thane still couldn't see me. Got as close to the T-turn as I could. Then ever so delicately, I sat the machine down. I bent down and began to unscrew the pipe. Instead of be super delicate, I was basing my movements on pressure and last bit of experience I had there. Right where I got close, as loose as it could be, I stopped. The pipe was super delicately positioned now. The slightest movement might cause it to come loose. That was what I counted on. Now to get in position, I moved with the odd combination of speed and silence. I didn't want things to get into action before I was in place. However, if Thane heard me slinking around, it'd be game over for sure. I was lucky the sounds of the rocking sea gave me a bit of cover. I moved back around the corner, back to the torture room. I kept moving around the torture room, around the hallways. I hadn't actually been down this way yet, but I was making a bet on how the ship was structured. That paid off, and I ended up on the other side of the hallway, the other end of the T intersection. See further down the hall, the machine I had left in a precarious spot had yet to burst. Thank goodness, that was my biggest fear with all this. I got close to the T intersection, staying as silent as I could. Then I waited, and I waited. Well shit, I thought the pipe was on precariously, but if it wasn't going to burst open anytime soon, could I risk going in and screwing with it more? That fill had a huge risk, and the fact that I hadn't heard up to this point was a miracle and a half. Who said I wouldn't just mess up screwing the pipe next time? What then? Try knocking over the machine by throwing something small at it? No, but if Thane was paying careful attention, that would ruin the whole thing. It was in this panic-stricken moment of time, as often did, the burst of chaos. Just as I was worried the smoke not doing its job, the apex of my concern, the ocean hit a particularly disruptive wave. Enough to rock the machine if the pipe came undone, and in an instant, smoke billowed out, immediately making noise and filling up the place. My smoke screen was being created, and Thane reacted appropriately. I could see from my position him rushing out, facing the smoke screen, backing away from that side of the T intersection. He had his pistol out. Pow pow. Fired twice in the smoky abyss. This was as good chance as ever as I'm gonna get. I took out the ice pick and rushed, hoping to stab in the back. Because of his strafing, I was pretty close, and his attention had been successfully diverted. Unfortunately, geography worked against me. The T meant the wall sort of jutted out on the right side, which I was holding the ice pick. Because of that, I couldn't swing wide. It sort of bent during my stab. I don't know if it made the difference or if I never stood a chance. Somehow, Thane sensed the attack coming sooner than he should have been able to. Clean motion, he began turning towards me and smacked the fist I had the ice pick held the pistol in. The ice pick went soaring to the stairs and out of my reach. My one means of fighting back is gone. No, not true. I still had two pretty lethal weapons. Keeping the momentum of surprise, I aimed a square punch at his face with my left arm. If I hit him head on, that would hopefully stun him enough for follow-up. One-on-one scenario, once someone becomes wailing on the other person, the fight's usually over. Unfortunately, as already made apparent, Thane's no pushover. He bobbled to the side, my fist just barely missing a stupid black helmet, and as my swing failed, he began attacking of his own. His right was curled up a fist and threw an uppercut right at my stomach. Usually been guard enough to avoid, but I put all my hand into my all into the missed punch, so the blow hit me straight on, and I was knocked right back. I was sent flying, my ass defeated, not because I was in a great amount of pain, but because I had lost the fight. Thane moved the pistol, he had the time to square the shot. I was lying flat on my back, I had no mobility. I was a fish in the barrel. The moment I started moving at all, I'd be shot. If I rushed him, I'd be shot. If I rushed away, I'd be shot. If I did nothing, I'd be shot. No matter what, in a matter of seconds, I'd be shot. Well, this was it, wasn't it? I'd gotten this far, done so much, and now this mystery ship and this mystery man, I'd die. And then likely disappear just like that. I guess just move from this plane. This is a time to reflect. Have I lived a worthy wife? One to be proud of? Was I destined for hell? I had a hard life, of that I'm sure. A pretty sympathetic one. A thankless one, too. I always tried to do my best. Try to do the right thing when I could. Try to make things right, and that led me here. This boat in the middle of nowhere about to be shot. Well, just great. Send my prayers to whoever loved beyond. There's an afterlife, please have mercy on me. Wasn't, please let somebody back here take my quest and finish it. So goodbye. I was expecting a bullet to come at any moment, but Thane hadn't yet pulled the trigger. Why? Got my answer moments later. Why? What are you doing here? How did you get here? How do you know about the Manjet? Just come from what I already suspected. For whatever reason, he wasn't expecting me here. I mean, that made sense. Seemingly, I decided to investigate the ship on my own, and nobody could have predicted that. But then, why did I pass out in that container? With all the supernatural bullshit, I wouldn't randomly fall asleep like that in the middle of investigation. I didn't think that it was drugs at the time, since I didn't have any gags in the canister. However, I definitely defaulted to accepting the explanation in lieu of others. I didn't think it was drugs at the time, so I didn't see any gas in the canister, but that must have been it. Thane, though, didn't expect me on the ship, so how on earth could I have been drugged if the owners of the Manjet wasn't aware of there? I didn't have an answer. I saw Thane begin to tense up and grip the pistol, slightly changing. Shit, you're ahead in the game. Forget that prayer bullshit. Thane's willing to be talked to. That wasn't an option yet. I have exactly one way to stay alive, and through some bullshitting. Luckily, serious bullshitting was right up my alley. If I had answered that honestly, I had no idea how I ended up there, and I boarded the ship, investigate a probable. I guess I could probably play out. No use for me. Bullet in the head. So then I need another answer. Don't shoot, I was sent by your boss. This time cocked his head, clearly not the answer I was expecting. Then after a beat, he responded in a slow manner, and that would be? Alright, one question down, how did I handle this one? There was a standard response to this. However, going that path would likely turn the conversation toward a lot of details I just didn't have. I was in a do-or-die situation. If there was ever time to take bold shots in the dark and a bid for high payout results, this was it. You don't want to kill me, I work for the devil. It's hard to tell with the mask and all, but that response seemed to confuse him. Then he began to chuckle. Ooh. Saw the pistol grip begin to tighten. Ah, wrong answer. He was going to shoot. Either be a fatal shot or debilitating shot. If it was debilitating, I have no chance. Looks like I was right to pray. Crash, bang. Happened in an instant, although it took me a second to process what it was. From the stairway, a main deck figure had come barreling in, crashing right into Thane's side. Thane caught completely unawares and ended up gripping the pistol, by extension the trigger. It's a pretty common occurrence when something sudden happens to somebody holding a gun. Luckily, Thane also reacted to the crashing by moving his arm in reaction to the blow. Because of that, the bullet mercifully fired and hit the ground a couple inches from my shoulder. Too close for comfort. But then again, that's a general trend tonight. After the crash happened, I could finally comprehend who my savior was. It was some girl with red hair and glasses. I'd seen her somewhere, but I couldn't put my finger on specifics. She looked, to put it mildly, pissed. And while I wasn't going to haplessly lie around, it was a miracle. This was a miracle, and I immediately needed to take advantage. I started making my way to the feet. The one barked orders at me in Archstone. Get moving! Already on it. Like I said, at this point I was already on my feet. Instantly I began running to the staircase Thane had been guarding. In the corner, I could see him already getting to his feet. My savior also recognized looming danger and began running up the staircase just a bit ahead of me. Soon enough, we sprinted back to the ship's deck, in front of the room and led the stairs. We didn't exactly have a ton of time for idle chat. However, as the two of us caught our breath, I figured the encounter was worth a few words. Thanks for that. Who the hell are you? Well, not the response I was expecting. It's Laura! Huh? What the fuck are you doing here? Good question. I could turn that question around on you. Seriously? You're gonna turn this on me? Hey, I'm trying to thank you for saving my life. Only did that to get some answers. Answers you're not giving me. Well, look at it. It's really tense situation right now. I think it's justifiable. Quick, shit, run! In the corner of my eye, I noticed that the window that Thane was making his way back towards us. Behind my savior, I saw a half-open metal container. I immediately began running towards it, grabbing the woman's wrist as I passed her by. I was afraid to give her some resistance, but luckily she was pretty smart and began running with me without a second thought. Right as we jumped off in the middle container, I heard two more shots fired off. It sounds like one hit metal, one maybe in the container itself. As I entered the container, I turned around and grabbed the handles of the door as I slammed it shut. Shit, that was close. You're telling me. That piece of shit's fucking efficient, if nothing else. Yeah, well, luckily we were able to once again come out as I noticed something in the corner of my eye. The doors of the container began to open. In the crack, I saw Thane. Immediately, I jumped over and grabbed the handles, pulling them back. I strained with all my might, struggling to keep the container closed. On the other hand, it was clear Thane was also pulling with all his might. This brief clash of will lasted a few seconds, but luckily keeping the door closed was an easier job than opening it. Also, understanding what happened, the woman rushed over and helped me pull it shut. Her assistance was a surprising boon in making our job much easier. A few seconds more, and it seemed Thane gave up trying to pry the container open. Instead of pounding, he slammed his fist against the wall. Then a pause. Pow, pow. Two gunshots impacted metal. From inside, I noticed an indent in the container wall. Bolts having almost penetrated. We may still very much be screwed. You think? Mercury is one lucky SOB, I gotta say. So many brushes with the death, so little time. Must be absolute killer in your heart. Makes you wonder why Mercury felt the need to go through all this. Actually, I suppose not. JC, huh? I see. Classic vengeance quest, apparently. Might as well keep it saved. A little cliche, a little done, but you know what? There's a reason it's a classic. We all love to see some revenge in action. Appeases our darker nature. Watching people get what they deserve, or maybe not. Maybe you're surprisingly ethical. Actually, bear with me a moment. I want to run a little experiment. Let's imagine the worst person possible. Mass murderer, war criminal, Hula raises puppy-kicking monster, like limits of human filth. They'll be our test subject we'll hypothetically push. I'll push things to the limits with a thought experiment. It's more fun that way. Just think the monster, imagine they bump their head, forget everything. It's scientifically provable. 100% this person has no memories of what they've done. Is it right to punish them? This reminds me of the event from Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood storyline, where a war criminal ended up losing their memory for a short period of time, and the characters had to debate exactly what to do. Can't exactly forgive them, but it's not something can't exactly put them in prison for a thing they don't even have a record of. Really? Even though this person killed 1,000 gruesomely, bump their head and get off free. Okay. Let's change things a bit. The monster builds a great device. They store their memories and then harm themselves. Later, a random citizen stumbles upon the device, suddenly their brain gets zapped. They have all the memories of the monster before the monster, functionally the version of that. Is it right to punish them? If we assume that the other person is functionally dead, then it would be a mercy to stop them. Huh. Even though this person in reality didn't actually do anything. Well, in scenario 3, you have a time travel machine with a destination. Before the monster commits their first major crime, have you defined that? Is it right to go back and punish the monster then? Probably not. Even though they're about to become the monster? You think the physical act of committing crimes matter? Yeah, this makes me think of Minority Report, since the whole ethics that movie went into was it right to punish people for crimes they haven't even committed yet just because uh, they would supposedly create it in the future. My last example, the monster is in their prime, a rift in space affecting just you. In this rift, you can punish them and they'll feel it, but them not dying either remember anything the moment leave. No consequences, doesn't matter. All you'll be doing is punishment for punishment's sake, pain for pain's sake. And remember, this monster span let your cat on fire, posted slurs online. Is that right? I feel this is going to go back to how I feel about redemption arcs, which I discussed a bit during my Final Fantasy XIV stream. What matters is the actions there, so... And what I care about is something that actually solves the problem. So if a person controls actions, that I value that more than simply them being sorry. And likewise, if someone is not sorry, then be punishment, but punishing them just for pain's sake, just to get out of my system. I don't think... Actually, that's a bad example. Think about more. It's more like if someone murdered someone important to you, you had to... You wanted your revenge, but all you'd be getting is vengeance there. Yeah, this is a better example. Am I the kind of person for vengeance for no other reason than vengeance? I feel like that would not do anything. I mean, it might make me feel better in the short term, but it won't give me peace, which is what I care more about. Quite the empathetic one, you know that? Looking at all your answers together, I find your philosophy quite interesting. It's consistent, I suppose, if you look at it the right way, but it seems a bit odd. At the very least, you have a stance. That's more than I could say about most. Yeah, like I said, this game has a lot of political intrigue to it, and that means my own personal thoughts and opinions and stuff will be coming out whether I want it to or not, so... yeah. Alright, well, that's more I can say about most. Alright, how long have we been going here? Almost 3 hours, eh? On investigation area here, so... I think that'll be good enough for tonight. We got to see the story of Mercury and Eris tonight. Looks like we've got 3 more stories, and then I'll begin unlocking with keys. So with that in mind, thank you for watching, hope you had a good time, and I'll see you later.